Good evening. I would like to call to order the January 31st, 2024 City Council meeting, special City Council meeting. Tonight, I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Kraut, Council members Albrecht, Shapiro, and Bazagian, as well as all of our staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. For items not on the agenda, please wait for my announcement for oral communication. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your city of residence. You will be allowed 3 minutes to address the City Council regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Tonight, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Deputy City Manager, Michael McConville.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We met in closed session prior to the meeting. Does our city attorney have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council met to consider 3 items. First, conference with the real property negotiator regarding real property 23075 Holland Highway. And second, conference with real property negotiator regarding 27040 Malibu Hills Road. Both those items, the council provided direction to staff and council and took no reportable action. On the last item, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, the council met with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut, recused, and also provided direction to staff and council, but took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any council announcements? I will start with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut.
No announcements this evening?
Councilmember Albrecht.
No announcements as well.
Councilmember Bazagian.
I don't have any announcements, thank you.
Councilmember Shapiro will make up for.
I will have a couple. First, I want to thank the Calabasas Chamber of Commerce. They had a wonderful gala and board swearing in Saturday night, and I want to thank you for the honor they bestowed upon me. Secondly, I want to mention on this weekend, on from 9 to 2 on the 3rd, February 3rd, at the Civic Center Plaza is the Body Positivity Fair, put on by the Mayor's Youth Council along with Asha Patel and her organization as well. It's going to be great. Look on our city site, come out, enjoy yourself. And I just want to mention 2 things. One, there is a CTC opening on the commission. If anyone would like to apply, please get your application in immediately and provide it to our city clerk, Mari Hernandez. But in the coming week, an appointment will be made. Thank you.
Just two quick announcements. This weekend is the e-waste collection on February 3rd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Albertsons Shopping Center in the back. And also on February 12th is our Public Safety Symposium, open to the entire community. It'll take place at 6 o'clock in Founders Hall. And also there's going to be some storms heading our way, and our city will be sending out messaging, so make sure that you are signed up to receive city emails. What's the new Blackboard Connect called? What is it? Here, I'm just gonna ask Michael Russo to tell you real quick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The replacement, if you will, for Blackboard Connect is called Final Site Connect. Same kind of thing. You just go to cityofcalabasas.com/public safety and you can sign up for it there.
If people were already signed up for Blackboard Connect, is it transferred over?
Yes, completely. Okay. They don't have to do a thing.
Okay, great. So just make sure you're signed up to receive notifications for the impending storms this weekend and early next week. Thank you. I'm going to move on to oral communication, public comment. I have 1 speaker card. Mark Levinson.
Thank you. Mark Levinson. I live in Los Angeles. I'm the immediate past chair of the Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to thank those who appeared at our gala and installation, and we enjoyed, and especially honoring David Shapiro for all he's done And second, tomorrow at 5:30, Mulholland, a brand-new chamber member and restaurant in Old Town, is having its ribbon cutting at 5:30. I understand rain or shine, so please attend. Food's great, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Going to move on to our consent items. Consent item number 1. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull the consent item? Okay. And there are no speaker cards on this item. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this consent item?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve consent item number 1?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Moving on to continued business. Our next item is to review, discuss, and provide direction on recommended amendments to the city protocols, discuss and provide direction on the weekly mayor's letter. Ms. Kinden will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be with you, and thank you to each of you as council members for taking the time for a special meeting for us to spend what is needed to address and review the protocols, the council protocols. The item that you have before you was started several years ago in 2022 in April at the direction of the council. There was a list of items that had been growing in regards to the protocols, and at that time, the Procedures and Protocols Committee met and started providing that insight. Most recently in 2023, the committee met various times, I would say 5 or 6 times with staff, Mari and myself, to review the protocols and make recommendations. Mayor, the presentation that I have tonight is set up as more of a workshop or a study session to go through item by item. And what I would recommend, if it's at the pleasure of the mayor, is that first, before going into that presentation and looking at item by item, that we have the members of the protocol committee, the protocol task force, provide some background, some context to their thought process in going into the protocols with what they were trying to accomplish. If that's okay with you.
Yes, I'm so sorry, yes.
And so, Mayor Pro Tem or Councilman Bazagian, either one of you would like to start?
You want me to go? Okay. The council first had protocols a few years after incorporation. They'd looked at it again about in 2002, and really the protocols have not been given a really thorough looking at since then as a whole. Little things have changed here and there. So we went about looking at the entire document, and we considered every item very, very seriously. We had several meetings, things changed a lot, and our goal was to make it so that everything ran more efficiently and that the roles of everything were much more clearly defined. These are our best attempts to make that happen. We understand, though, that there's only 2 of us on the committee. It has to be all 5 of us that agree. My own personal feeling is that, to the extent possible, that these get approved not just by majority vote, but by consensus. So there probably has to be a little bit of give and take on it. Peter and I agreed on most of it. We didn't agree on everything, and we usually wound up in the middle on those items we didn't agree on. So with that, I hope that the spirit of this is to approve something that everyone can be mostly comfortable with, but to understand that no one's going to get 100% of what they want out of it.
Peter?
Yeah, I also want to just emphasize the reasons behind our changes, and they really fell into 4 categories that were outlined in the staff report. The first one was to underscore the mayor's responsibility to accurately represent the majority of opinion of the council in oral and written communication. The reason for that was that when somebody's speaking as a mayor, that the community hears them as the voice of the council, and we weren't trying to make it so that the mayor can't express his or her own opinion, but just that when they're speaking predominantly, they need to represent the council, and when they're representing their own opinion, they need to make sure that's clear. To maximize the time during council meetings to conduct city business, again, we're looking at efficiency here. Many of us have spent a few nights past 10 o'clock here in these chairs. And what we wanted to do is, make sure that our protocols reflected an efficient use of our time here. And then the third one, establishing some procedures to ensure that the city council agenda items reflect the interest of the majority. This was a lot, had to do with words that we've heard from our city manager and from staff that, they might be, pulled in one direction by a mayor, and then the next year, the following mayor has a different direction that they want to see the city move in. And that back and forth is really hard on our city, hard on our staff. And we just wanted to make sure that, that we're working as a team here, that the five of us are given the same one set of direction to our staff to make them use their, to allow them to use their time efficiently. And then the fourth category was some items that we did add for campaign guidelines, and these had to do with two items. One would be the FPPC's requirements, just making sure that we as council members, when we're running our campaign, we're not putting the city in jeopardy of any sort of issues there with FPPC or with misuse of city funds. So we thought those suggestions would help make us kind of the leaders in campaign reform, to be operating transparently and make sure that we're above reproach. So those were the intentions, and I hope as we go through them today, you'll see that. And if you don't see that and you have questions, or you wonder if there was another reason behind it, I can assure you there wasn't, but we're here to discuss it.
And I also, Alicia, would add that I think it'd be easiest to go through the red line version. The other versions, it's not clear to see what's being changed.
So thank you, council members. And with that, Mayor, I'll proceed. And as recommended by Councilman Bazagian, I think the cleanest way to do this is in your packet is a red line version that was presented to you. I'll give you some time to look at that. I'll also,
Sorry, Kenan, I have it from the old, I have my notes from prior.
Oh.
So,
As do I.
Well, we can, it's just that you won't,
No.
it's not apparent what was changed and what wasn't.
I have the old red line.
the pages may have changed, but I don't think so. But we'll just go section by section, and we'll be clear on what section we're on.
Okay.
And so that way, as we look at that, then there's not any information that's missed. So to start out with, on the red line packet, or packet in your, or red line version in your packet, page number 1 is the preamble. Again, very little change on there. There was some clarification on using the capitalization of the city, and then using the Robert's Rules of Order that was clarified in that. Under page 3, under general, again, really just some minor corrections there.
I had a question on, do you want to go question by question now, or wait?
Yeah, no, I think it's best if we go page by page or section by section, and so that we can address those as
So,
we go through.
Okay, number 5, under general, I think there was a question about committees. It says commissions and committees.
Yeah,
Was
and
it-
perhaps the question on that, one of the discussions that we've had internally as staff, and then also with the Protocols Committee, is that we interchange the word committee and task force frequently. I think we tend to gravitate towards more task force, but again, we're just looking for direction from the council on that, and that would be a change that would be then move through the entire document. Is there a preference to refer to these council committees or task forces as committees or task forces? And that's some direction there.
If it's unclear, you could put council.
I
You
just-
could put council committees.
Or I would put council
Subcommittees.
something, council subcommittee. I would just put the word council, because it's not clear like what
Which,
committees.
which committees? Is there a preference to use the word task force or committees in this?
You could say council subcommittees, that would cover both.
Yeah, because some are really more like subcommittee or committees, such as
Like the budget, for example?
Budget and others, maybe a task force, but still identified as a subcommittee would make sense, I think.
It might be necessary to give a definition of each, because sometimes we may continue to use committee or task force. And what would be the difference? What distinguishes the two of them? So either we use one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a real difference. I mean, if we would go deep into the nuances, we probably could, but in reality, the purpose of these groups is to identify two council members who would work together on a specific item, whether that's a task, or a budget, which could be a longer process and ongoing.
The only difference historically was that there are certain committees that were always committees, budget, for example. Others, or open space acquisition. Others were task force created for a particular purpose that often become
There was a
continue in
sunset.
existence as the world moves. But legally, they're the same. It's just two members of council.
Maybe just throw the word council in.
So council, just to proceed that?
You know, if I'm hearing you right, a task force really dissolves after a period of time. It's usually not an ongoing situation. A committee usually is perpetuity, more of a long-term, permanent type situation. So the protocol committee,
So if I'm hearing correctly, then we would put council committees and task forces.
I would say put both.
Okay.
Because they have two different applications.
And we can do that throughout the document because there's really no distinction between the two here. They were just misused one or the other.
Any other questions on that page? So if you continue to page 4, which is the section of the selection of the mayor. And in this, the committee initially recommended some changes, and you see those in redlined. After further review, we don't feel that there's a necessary change to be made in that. What we do just need to be clear on going forward is what the rotation of the mayor is. And so I've put that here in the presentation, just to understand that going forward, nothing changing. This would be the outline of the mayor rotation over the next 5 years.
Okay, but it's December of the previous year is what you mean?
Correct. Correct. As outlined here in the protocols.
Okay.
So again, unless there's a need to change this, we would leave the wording as is, not recommend the edits of the protocols committee, but with the understanding that there's a clear rotation. And part of the reason this came up is just the understanding that the rotation is off right now and just trying to correct that going forward. Is why we just needed to be clear on that.
I think none of us want to be presumptuous about like putting our names, right? Like on-
It's, as outlined in the protocols, it all says subject to the direction and discretion of the council.
I think her point is I have not been reelected.
No,
Yeah.
no, actually, I'm looking, no, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking all the way ahead, right?
Sure.
No, it's 26,
I'm being
27.
funny,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right,
It's 26,
all right.
27, 28.
These are the seat numbers, basically.
Yeah.
Given no changes on the council, this would be the
Perfect.
rotations
Okay.
Yeah,
at the discretion of the council.
great.
That's voted upon by the council in December. Going to page 5, we see a number of changes here. And this is the section called Mayor's Role. So, any questions on item number 2? Clarification on that is that second line, the mayor recognizes the unique role of representing the council. So just a clarification on that. Most significant change there is item number 3, which I have on the screen and then you have before you. And so with both 3 and 4, I think we could open it back up to the Protocols Committee to discuss their thoughts on that, and then we could open that up for discussion, Mayor.
James or Peter, do you want to start?
Well, 3 and 4 is at least, 3 and 4 to me are logical and should be what is done. I don't think anyone would expect otherwise in our system because a mayor is not separately elected. but I think we had not spelled that out previously in prior versions of the protocols. I think sometimes there's a tendency, if the mayor disagrees or is in the minority, not to follow this. And I can use myself as an example so we don't get offended. There was something that happened during my term as mayor where it was a 4-to-1 vote, and I disagreed with it. So I didn't badmouth it or anything. I gave an interview to the press and said, this is what the council decided, even though I voted no. And in the press release, the mayor pro tem had voted yes, so I let the mayor pro tem do the quote because I felt that would be fairer than me doing a lukewarm comment that wouldn't reflect. It made me feel uncomfortable to give a praising comment to the legislation, but I didn't want to, downplay it because 4 other council members liked the legislation. So I think this is a pretty good statement of how the mayor should behave.
And I would just add that we mentioned 3 and 4. In 4, there was a discussion of what happens when the mayor doesn't want to sign the resolution that they lost in a 4-1 vote. And that's why that last sentence of number 4 says the mayor pro tem or another council member's signature may be used, because we recognize that there are events where the mayor may not be in the majority. Nevertheless, we want to make sure that the majority will of the council moves forward. So those were the thoughts behind those, and
we've had 4 occasions that I remember just off the top of my head where the mayors refused to sign the resolution. One of us almost cost us our library.
Ed, do you have any?
No, I'm glad you explained the last sentence, and that makes sense, and only with the background that you've had over the years of experience would you know to put that in there. And I think all of it is appropriate. It really is what the mayor's obligations and duties are and fulfills it properly.
David?
I understand it, and I understand what you're saying. I have no problem with 3. 3 makes absolute sense. 3 and 4, to me, have a little conflict if I read them together. The mayor or mayor pro tem, I would be more comfortable with the mayor or mayor pro tem signing. You're talking about ordinances, documents. I don't think, unless it's an urgency matter, that we would need to have other council members sign on behalf of the city. That would be one recommendation. And the other is, in 3 and throughout this document, the mayor is to represent the city on all aspects, except if the mayor doesn't like the vote, I'm not comfortable with that either. So frankly, I don't think that's a good enough reason not to sign. I know one of the issues that happened before, way back, with a former colleague of yours that was on council and didn't want to sign and ended up apparently signing a document he didn't
I signed.
wish to. No, it wasn't you. Oh, you signed for?
Uh,
Oh, then maybe it's a second one.
It had to be signed. It's passive voice.
All right, I just don't agree with that, because I understand from a personal point of view, I may end up in the next few weeks or tonight voting against something or voting for something that I'm the only one, but as mayor, you represent the entire city council, and that would be my only comment on that.
And my comment on that is, I think as the mayor, if something's approved, even if you don't like it, you should still have to sign it.
Okay, but on 4 occasions with 3 separate mayors, a mayor has refused to sign a document.
Right,
What
but
do you do?
No, but that's, when you assume the role of a council member and assume the role as a mayor, that's part of your duties. Like you sign, settlement agreement, your settlement agreements, ordinances, that's part of your responsibility. So if you can't uphold the duties of your responsibility, then maybe you can't be mayor.
Okay, well, let me just give you a little scenario that happened. The document's due in Sacramento. We have a meeting a couple days before. The mayor refuses to sign it, and the legislation, the bond, says you must, the mayor's signature must be attached.
So can you say, then modify it?
Is unavailable.
well, it's not like unavailable, because they're really, they're refusing. Like, to me, if someone's refusing to sign it, there should be further there should be further punishment.
But that's from us. Meanwhile, you lose
No,
an
so I'm
$8.2
saying,
million
but
grant.
not unavailable, if something has like a timeliness to it. Urgency. Like, if it's urgent.
I would say unavailable or refuses to sign. I like your first idea better.
And then I would say for the mayor pro tem, because then who chooses what council member?
Okay.
And the only reason that we added the council member to that is, and I don't believe this has happened, but imagine if the mayor and the mayor pro tem were in the minority and we had the same scenario. You have 3 council members in favor of it, and it's a timely document that has to be signed, but the council members that voted for it don't have the authority to sign it. So that was why we added the council member. Again, they're last in line. We didn't see that as something where we'd go to a council member for a signature, but we wanted to make sure that the minority can't hold the rest of the council hostage. Again, hasn't happened in that extreme, but we wanted to look out for it.
And I appreciate that and understand it. The only question then becomes, is it become a political tool? It hasn't been used except 4 times, I guess, in the history of the city since 1991, right? And I can't imagine that happening with this group of council, no matter what the vote is, but.
Well, you raised a good point.
Yeah.
This isn't just for us.
For the
This is
future.
a living document
Yeah.
for when there's, let's say a couple elections from now, there's a problematic, troubled council that doesn't agree and won't sign each other's resolutions. That's for them more than it is for us. I agree with you. No one here has ever done that. And I don't anticipate they would. But there have been some, and the last one only happened a few years ago.
So as a possible rewrite of that sentence, if the council is interested in entertaining this, in the event the mayor refuses to sign the document, the mayor pro tem would be the designated signer. In the event the mayor pro tem refuses to sign the document, then one of the other 3 council members could sign.
Or I'd say unavailable too. What if someone's in
Or
Europe?
refused.
What if someone's in Europe or, somewhere
Or in the
unavailable? In the
Or a
hospital.
medical situation, yeah.
I mean,
I know.
it's either unavailable or unwilling. It has to be both.
And I'm sorry, I need to understand, Councilman Shapiro, is there a way that the way that it's written now, do you see that as being abused? And if so, how?
I see it, my concern, looking forward to a different council, let's say a lot of us have changed, or all of us have changed down the road. Hopefully somebody will look at protocols before then. But if there is whatever it might be that's being signed, and it's a 3-2 vote, and the 2 voting in the minority are mayor pro tem, then they may flip it around and use it for purposes of not signing, for election purposes or candidacy. That, to me, is exactly what I don't want to see here. I don't want to see this become a political tool, the whole document. I don't think the protocol, that's the only concern. To me, it doesn't matter who signs the document. To me, it should always be the mayor, or if the mayor's unavailable for whatever that means, then the mayor pro tem. But I understand what you are trying to put forward.
Comment. I appreciate and understand what you're trying to say. It could happen. It hasn't happened in 30 years or more. But no matter what, the document has to be signed. So if it has political ramifications, then that will come out in the election, if that needs to be. But just like Councilman Bazagian said, this is a living document. It's something that is the Bible of orderliness within our chamber and etiquette. So, but that document can't go without being signarized, and if it is for a grant or money, whatever, it can't wait. It's an urgent matter.
I I don't see the word urgent here, that's why, that's one of, I understand that. I think I'd be more comfortable if the word was urgent, but it's not, it's discretionary, really.
Right. And that's what I was saying, that it should be only in the instance, if someone doesn't like the way a vote went and we have to sign something and they refuse, I think we should really work for the mayor to sign it. But if it's something that's timely, I understand going through these steps. I wouldn't want to jeopardize any funding but for just a regular signature, if they're refusing, I think like that should be dealt with in another place.
Well, we'd be okay with that, I think. We just need to come up with what's the mechanism to hold them accountable to signing it. I mean, if the mayor doesn't sign it within 3 days, they are relieved of their mayorship, and the mayor pro tem is elevated the mayor who shall sign the document. I mean,
Yeah, something
you
like
you
that.
can get really punitive about it if you want, but we just saw this as, you know, if a mayor wants to take a stand on something, we just want to make sure that the wheels of the city keep moving while somebody's taking a stand.
Matt, what happens in other cities?
Generally, the mayor is required to sign. If the mayor refuses, then it depends on whether the mayor is elected or not. Here, as a rotational mayor, usually the council will put pressure, and if that doesn't work, then they start imposing consequences. Sometimes it's take away the mayor, other times it's look at expenses or their discretionary funds, that take away that which matters until the person agrees. If it's an elected mayor, which we don't have, need to worry about it, that can sometimes result in litigation.
So it's mayor, and then do you ever have mayor pro tem, for mayor pro tem?
I mean, that's not uncommon to have the mayor
Okay.
pro tem sign, yeah.
Right.
Especially in the less political scenario where the mayor is away, medical, traveling, whatnot.
So do you want to strike the last sentence of number 4?
Why would we do that?
Because we're in the minority.
I just don't want this to become a stance where the mayor's like, well, I didn't vote for this, I didn't sign it.
But that's happened already.
Right. But I feel like then, like what Matt was saying, there should be pressure from the council.
Well, I agree. I really do. Unfortunately, sometimes in 2 of the 4 cases, something was held up
And I
that
don't want to
cost
hold it
us.
up. So however we have to do, so not to hold it up, but I would only go all those extra steps for timely, urgent matters.
Okay, so here's my suggestion then, is we say that in the event the mayor is unavailable or refuses to sign an urgent document, the mayor pro tem or another council member's signature may be used. And then it becomes only a last resort, and then we can still take pressure to, impeach the sitting mayor if we want to take further action afterwards.
Okay.
This way, one rogue person can't hold
Right.
up the wheels of the city here.
I'm good.
Does that work?
Good. Yeah, that's the intent,
And
right?
Mayor Pro Tem, maybe instead of urgent, timely, or do you want to use
I like
urgent?
urgent.
Urgent, okay.
Urgent.
So, Mari, did you get that? So just to clarify, so on item number 3, no changes. The council is okay with item number 3. And then number 4, changing the last sentence as mentioned by Mayor Pro Tem. Is that correct? Good. The next item is,
City manager, just a quickie. The
Correct.
difference between urgent and timely is a big deal, because if it's timely, a council 20 years from now is going to say, well, how much time is involved? Does it mean a day or 2 or a week? What's timely? But urgent means urgent. So now you have both.
Can we, when we get this back for final approval, can we get maybe a blue highlight over what we changed from this red line? Or are we
do
gonna
that.
do it tonight?
We can do that.
I don't
Well,
know.
and if it's approved on those items,
Then we don't need it.
yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
you can approve it tonight, or you can have it come back for a final vote, either as the council may desire.
Okay.
Any questions on number 5 on this one? I think most of the questions came down to number 8, where it now reads, 2 council members may place an item on the future city council agenda future items shall be agendized with 90 days. And I'll let the Protocols Committee discuss that one, which I think could be tied in with item number 9, the two together.
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
All right, so, I mean, the idea behind this was any item that we're gonna spend our time discussing needs to have at least 2 people in favor of it. So when it was written before, it was the mayor or 2 city council members could put an item on the agenda, which would, again, allows the mayor that perhaps taking up our time with an item that he or she doesn't even have one other member of support for. So we didn't think it was unreasonable to ask any future agenda item to have 2 people supporting it. The agendized within 90 days, of course, the thought process behind that was in the past, items have been put on the future agenda items, but the mayor just has not agendized them. So we wanted to make sure that there was some sort of a timeline. We don't expect that there will probably be an exception to the rule where something can't be done in 90 days. I'm sure that's going to eventually happen, but we needed to set some sort of a timeline. And then because we do have, as we saw at our December 15th meeting, we have more future agenda items than we have time to get to. So we had to figure out how to prioritize them. And in trying to help the mayor and the city manager figure out which ones were first, obviously matters of urgency. You know, if there's something due in Sacramento and it needs a signature, it's going to have to be slipped into the agenda regardless of how soon or how late it came. We thought the strategic priorities was very important to the city. We covered those before, so things that aligned to those really were showing more support of the city council. Committee recommendations, because that's what they're there for, and then future city council items in the order that they were requested. That was what we thought was the most logical order, but we're here tonight for discussion.
Ed, do you want to go first? Oh, wait, sorry, James, did you want to comment on this one as subcommittee? And then-
Yeah, I just think that the other thing the future agenda items does is that, you know, we have this rule that I've never agreed with. It's really has no firm legal basis on whether you need 2 or 3 council members to agendize something and when it goes on. This simplifies it. There's no 3, then it goes on immediately, and 2, it never goes on. You know, it just says 2. Now, if there's too many items, as Peter said, then it doesn't, as long as there's an explanation of what's happening, I think that's the intent. Obviously, if an emergency comes up or a prioritized item comes up and it can't be heard in the 90 days, even though we were planning on it, at least the mayor can say, hey, you know, this was supposed to be within the 90 days. It's not because tonight we're hearing something that came up since the last meeting. And I think that's a fair compromise to what we have now, which is some of these items on the future agenda item list, honestly, they get buried. And the airport noise one was one of them. I mean, that just got, and that was actually supposed to come back in January, but I understand there's other things going on. But I don't want that to go on and on and on when, in that case, 3 council members asked for it.
Ed?
Yeah, I read this and I was very happy with it. I really liked the way it worked out. It made good sense as far as the 90 days, that's for sure, because at the end of our council meetings, the mayor always will look over at the council and say, does anybody have future agenda items? Well, if you look at the list of agenda items and you're going to factor in time management and hours served, it's impossible to get through all that. So it's a pool of ideas that never really, that sink to the bottom of the pool. So I like this very, very much. And of course, matters of urgency take priority. So it is a good ledger of sequencing in terms of hierarchy. So I like it. I'm not sure about in the order they were requested, though. That's one of the issues I feel I think we need to discuss a little bit, because you know, you got to have the discretion. The mayor's got to have some discretion over it. Then it's who gets into the pool first. I'd like to see if we could move that to mayor's discretion and city councilman, city manager, rather than having it as it comes in. Because something may come in that's really a good idea and should be implemented sooner and cannot afford to wait.
David?
Thanks. It used to be, as I always thought, it was the mayor or city manager or 2 council members. So I absolutely agree 2 council members is enough to put something on a future agenda. The only question here I had, because I have no problem with 90 days, I have no problem. It seems like 8 and 9 have a potential conflict, and that goes to the issue of strategic priorities. Because if we have something, let's say we all put something on a future agenda. I've had a particular item of interest for me for 4 plus 5 years. I'm aware of it, and it obviously isn't the interest of all council at this point. So when the timing's right, I'll push it or ask for it to come forward. But the conflict I have is if we each come up with something, potential conflict, and it has to come on the agenda within 90 days, which is great. That means strategic priorities or something else is going to get pushed down. So maybe there's some leeway for that. I don't know whether it's what Ed said, whether it's in the mayor and city manager's discretion or what the right answer is, but there should be some discretion, but I also understand the desire to get things moving forward if they're important.
And you want me to ask my questions? I've never had any issue where the mayor or 2 council members has been able to put anything on the agenda. I've never, in all my years on the council, never had any issue with the mayor. The mayor putting something on the agenda. I don't see any issue with that. If we wanted to like limit it, like put a time frame, like 3 items in their year or something, so it's not like the mayor doesn't take advantage of it, but I think it is important to give the mayor that opportunity during their 1-year term.
Yeah, you know, the Congress and the state legislature have a rule that each member is allowed to bring forward X number of bills.
That's where I was getting it from.
And I think that's something you hit on that we didn't think, I didn't think about it at least for this. That would solve some of the problem of people padding the future agenda item list to make it unmanageable.
Right, but I was saying if the mayor's given, 3 items where they don't need a second, or 4, 3 or whatever the number is, and that, because looking at number 9, to me, it's gonna be unmanageable. Like, we have so many future city council agenda items, the whole 90 days. On this one, I'm really interested. I mean, I know how some cities do it, but I'm interested in how the agendas don't get packed and how things get done well in other cities. Like, this just seems like a lot of things. I mean, matters of urgency, we all agree on, strategic priorities. But then the future city council agenda items, sometimes those things come up and they're really important. They're not urgent, but they might take priority, so. Looking for direction.
Happy to shed a little light. Number 1, on the point about we'll give the mayor some ability to influence the agenda. State law, Government Code Section 54956, guarantees the mayor or 3 council members the right to set the agenda for a special meeting. So the mayor would have that power at will for a special meeting. Now, that isn't necessarily the power to direct staff to do the agenda work, but it is the power to set the agenda. So that may provide some solace on that side. As to how other cities handle this, this one varies a fair amount. Part of it is being realistic with how long items will take, and part of it is also tolerance for meeting length, and what that translates to in terms of level of work getting done at the council meeting. The other one that the better models is leveraging the commissions and council committees so that items come to council fully baked, and thus you can get through 3 big things in a night as opposed to 1 big thing made and sausage sorted out in full in 1 meeting. And that's all you get done in 1 meeting versus 3 if you've got them pretty baked. And part of that also depends on how far apart the members of the council are in terms of if there's, always 4 on this way and 1, well, then the 4 can pretty quickly know where they're all going to be, and that gets done, versus if it's more mixed, then things take a lot longer.
Does the subcommittee want to respond at all to Matt?
Yeah, not to Matt. I would like to respond to your comment, though, as far as, I think that's where we're philosophically different. I see the mayor as the chairman of this organization. as the head of the 5 council members here. But as a non-elected mayor, as a rotated mayor, when we give the mayor too much authority to set the agenda, separate from the majority of the council, then we end up with that phenomenon where the city and the city staff and our time here at council meetings are dragged in one direction or another. And, you know, we have in recent history had, you know, a mayor who was unable to get something on the strategic priorities, had zero support for it, and was able to insert it as a December agenda item, which, you know, takes up our time. And it was an item that there was no other support for. And it wasn't fully baked. And so this was really,
But the fully baked item, that's the key to it. I think I remember the item, but I'm not exactly sure which one you're discussing.
so it was, I think we're trying to stay away from getting specific.
That's fine,
You know,
but-
and calling people out here, but, you know, we can look back at your December meetings and you'll figure it out.
But Matt was saying that the mayor can call an appointed mayor, right? Not an
Yeah,
elected mayor?
any mayor.
An appointed mayor can call a special meeting, which would be a bigger waste of time.
Well, we have enough special meetings and we can't take that power away from the mayor, so if it's that important, he or she can call a special meeting and,
Right, but I'd rather like allow the mayor, as we've done in the past, to put some items on the agenda. I mean, that item, if you're talking about, it died. It might have taken a little time, but it died.
yeah.
So if there's no support, I'm fine like limiting the number, but I think if the mayor can call a special meeting, it's silly not to allow them to put something on the agenda.
Okay, and as far as limiting the number, the reference that James was making was that all members are restricted to the number of items that they can put on the agenda. We didn't go that far, although that's not a bad idea. The number for the mayor, again, I philosophically, I think that the mayor should be putting forth the agenda that the council wants discussed.
Right, but
Yeah.
any comments?
You know, sometimes you have to go back to the foundation to get a good grounding, and then work from there. We have so many agenda items, future agenda items. How do we know of all of those, which are the most important? So I'm just speaking in a discussion level that maybe at some point, maybe the beginning of each year with a new mayor's term, we go over that pool and refine it a little bit. And then from that pool, we'll have a better handle of what might we expect during the year. So it's not the luck of the draw.
I think that's a good idea, except for the fact that most future agenda items come up in the middle of the year. Because like we don't know, it's a great idea for the beginning of the year, what we know. And goodness knows we have enough at the beginning of the year, we could probably do that.
But maybe even prioritize it a little bit in a grouping sense.
I want to ask Matt something. Matt, do other cities have limits like the legislature has and the Congress has, where they say you can only bring up?
I'm not aware of any city that has done that, although I haven't admittedly searched
I
all of
haven't
the
either.
cities. I know the legislature, I want to say it's 5 or 10 bills per member. Congress is Congress. My guess is some of the larger cities, like the 14, 15 member councils, may have those kinds of rules. I'm not aware of a general law city at our size that has done that, but certainly it could be an option. One approach may be to put a pin in this and then folks can ruminate and return.
That's a good
But
idea.
I defer back to council.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And Mayor, if I could just speak on item number 8. Staff has discussed this considerably and how we would accomplish this 90 days. And what we anticipate then is often at the end of a meeting, it's late at night, there's requests that come to staff for future agenda items, but it's usually 1 or 2 sentences. And there isn't enough clarity or direction in those, usually in those discussions at the end of an evening to understand. So operationally, the way that staff sees this is that within 90 days, we would come back to the council with a very simplified staff report just to have it on an agenda to get more direction and clarity from the council. And at that time, the council then might say, we'd like a task force or a committee to spend the next couple months on this, or please send this to one of our commissions. But at least it gives us direction on more of what the council is asking for than that simple item that just shows up on the spreadsheet every 2 weeks.
You know, it would be great if, when we said for a future agenda item, if we like took a little time, like try not to make the meeting so late so we could spend some time and be like, this should go to the Environmental Commission, this should go to the task force, so that your staff's not put in that situation after the fact. Maybe we can ask ourselves those questions when we request a future agenda item.
I think even then, but it almost necessitates coming back for more of a discussion. And Councilman Bazagian, I'll use the FAA example for that. There's a lot of moving parts with that, and that could be, does the council want to pursue litigation? Does the council want to host a forum? Does the council want to engage with congressional reps? Does the council want to engage with LAWA? There's a lot of moving parts to that, and so just by even directing it to a committee or a task force or a commission, we don't have the full direction on that, and so it might just need to come back just very briefly, and then we might be able to limit these to 5 or 10 minutes to say, what is it really that the majority of the council wants to accomplish from this item?
I just wouldn't want 90 days to go by and then you come back and say, what should we do now? So maybe within the 90 days, like there's the task force or something. I just feel like 3 months is a long time to then ask those questions, but I guess we can figure that. Staff can figure that out. I was just thinking of a way to be more efficient or during that time. Because
Right.
then if you come back and we're like, okay, now go to the subcommittee or subcommittee, task force, we got to figure that out. Task force, and then commission, and then back to the council. It's been a long time.
And that could happen at that meeting as just a recommendation that it goes to a committee, task force, or a commission, as long as we understand fully what the intent of that is.
But maybe for simpler items, not like the FAA, but you can ask the council member who's requesting the item, the two. Should this be a task force, commission? So I just don't want to like 90 days to burn where we haven't done anything.
But a lot of this, I mean, just so we're clear, part of this is, there have been times when there was, say, a proposition that was gonna be on the ballot, and someone didn't like the proposition, so they just tried to slide it along for many, many months. That's also part of this. It's not just getting future direction. It was a yes, does the council want to take a position, or no?
That was because the mayor with the agenda.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, if you put a 90-day limit,
Right.
at least there's accountability where something doesn't disappear.
So then it should be, though, that the mayor can't deny that coming forward, because that was the issue on that one.
However, I thought this was an all-encompassing thing for everything, and that it would include timely things like that.
So, but that was a big one, that
That
one.
was a big
The
one.
mayor did not want it coming forward.
Correct?
So how do you prevent that? It's like
Put
you
a
can't.
90-day limit on it.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask Kendon, just because my concern was strategic priorities and losing it with the 90 days. The way you've described coming back in 90 days with a very short report, at least getting it on our radar, coming back here, is something you feel you can do and staff can do without affecting strategic priorities? Okay, then
That's correct.
then that would alleviate at least my concern in
That's
that regard.
correct.
And I'd like to chime in with the mayor's comment here. I think we as council, when we have a future agenda item, if we come prepared, we can say, for example, I'd like to have information on speeding on Mulholland. And to make sure that this comes to us, I'd like to suggest tonight that it goes to the Public Safety Task Force. And we could probably get a future agenda item, moved in that direction the
that.
night that you propose it. And it just takes a little preparation on our part before we put those items out. I'd be totally
I
okay
like
with
that.
that.
Yeah, I want to ring in on that. It's a great idea on a lot of levels. We've talked about this before, about utilization and efficiency. To use the commissions is perfect because they are looking for things to do and they're creative and they're great people. But we would have to authorize that those commissions, let's use public safety for an example. They meet quarterly. So we might miss the most recent meeting and could wait up to 4 months and then wait for a council meeting, and then it's not going to get directly agendized. So we could be looking at 6 months. So if we can bring those commissions together for a special meeting on a direction of council to discuss an item, and maybe they need 2 meetings, and give them the authorization to do that, that would expedite things. Then things wouldn't get caught up so bad. We could use them more efficiently, and we would be better off because we'd be supported on the issues that we want to discuss. They've already vetted it on some level.
I like that. My only question is, would we be allowed to, when asking for a future agenda item, to say, and I'd like this to go to the commission, and because the commission just met last week, I'd like to authorize a special meeting? I mean, I think that'd be great for, but I'm asking Matt.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine, because we always, the agenda item is future agenda items, and the council's not making any decision other than to have a commission review it, but there's no substantive action taken. So I think that'd be fine for this protocol to authorize the 2 members of council to say, I want the Public Safety Commission to study Mulholland traffic, to use the example, and then it would go to that commission in a special meeting if needed. I think that'd be fine.
But in addition to that, also on the, not when you take the oath, but when you're given the, what that commission does and how often they meet, the rules or the regulations on it, also include on that, be prepared for special meetings, because they could come at the council's decision.
Okay, so can we come back to number 8?
We're coming back to 8 and 9, or just 8?
I think both.
Okay.
What? Okay.
Next section is, or the continuation of this is the mayor's role. And I think as we met, the item number 11 seemed to have the most question. And so again, I'll turn to the protocols task force on this.
Yeah, item 11 is, we've had a few occasions, including recently, where the council's given direction, and then for some reason it keeps coming back. And it comes back by the minority asking for it back. And then it just keeps coming back. I mean, if there's no changed circumstances, a vote should stand. There should be some finality and some thought that we're not wasting our time discussing the same thing over again just because someone's unhappy with the decision.
Did you guys consider, like, besides an emergency?
No, it says changed circumstances.
Okay.
Demonstratively changed circumstances, which should be stated. You know, like, we made a decision to spend money on something that was maybe a little bit, out there, and then, like in 2008, all of a sudden a recession happened really quickly. Okay, well, I would consider that to be a demonstrably changed circumstance.
I had no issues with it.
But it's not just, I didn't like the decision of the council and I want them to think about it again, which is what's happened here a couple of times.
No, I agree with this very, very much. I like this idea. However, the word demonstratively, what determines demonstratively? So if we have a situation where something comes up and I feel it's a demonstrative change, but everybody else, it's a split decision. How do we have to qualify that. If we can do that, don't think we can put it in terms of dollars. It might have to be a council vote, but that needs to be vetted out.
And I think the words we chose there were, which must be outlined in the staff report. So if somebody can demonstrate changed circumstances enough to convince the mayor and the city manager to put it on the agenda, then the first thing in the staff report, when it gets to us, should be, this is what's changed and why we need to reconsider our vote. And at that time, we have somebody in the council wants to move to quash the item, Robert's Rules of Order will allow that. We just need a majority vote. So the point was that if we do need to bring something back, and there could be a time where something changes, state law changes, and now we're all thinking differently, or, some global event happens and we're all thinking differently, then maybe we need to bring it back, but we need to make sure that when it comes back, the first thing we talk about is what changed and why are we looking at this again?
David?
Yeah, just a quick question on 10. We didn't cover that, and maybe it doesn't apply or isn't necessary, but it says the mayor's discretion. Should it say to follow council direction there somewhere? Would that make that a little more accurate than accommodating the needs of council? That was just a thought. Because we're coming out of a closed session, it would be the duty to follow the council direction, I would believe. Again, in a situation where the mayor doesn't want to sign a document, the discretion may not be to put it.
So number 10 is strictly the authority to change the order of the agenda. And we were not taking that away from the mayor. We were leaving it, that authority with the mayor.
Okay.
That was in there before. The only thing is, we now apply it to closed session where, let's say we have an hour, like we just did, and we have more than one item, the mayor can move them around.
Okay. I just didn't, okay. It says at a public meeting or closed session. So
Right.
that's-
Yeah, we added the
Okay.
or closed session.
Yeah, the rest was
because-
already in there.
Okay. All right.
And I'll note on that one, if the majority ever had concerns about the mayor's ordering, every decision the mayor takes is appealable to the council anyway.
There's a vote. All
So
right.
majority vote can control in the end.
Okay, and I understood your discussion on 11. Originally, we just got through saying arguably 2 city council members can bring a future agenda item, or 3 city council members maybe could bring this item is the only thought I had. The only thing I'd say is I agree with Ed. I would almost take the word out demonstratively. Change circumstances would be enough potentially if there are 2 or 3 council members, maybe you want to say 3, change circumstances would be enough to bring an item back. Otherwise, I agree completely with what you said.
Kindon, do you have any comments?
Not on this one.
Okay.
And I think it should be demonstrably. I don't know that demonstrably is a word.
I think the straight grammar would be demonstrably.
Why don't you guys wordsmith that?
Sorry.
I think I'm saying I think everyone agrees on the substance, so. Yeah, I don't think, right, everyone agrees on the, okay.
And the last thing I'll note on that one, if I may, if the council majority felt that there were not changed circumstances, the majority could simply so declare and then kill it.
Well, the idea is to try to not get it on the agenda wasting time because a staff report will be accompanying it, and so everyone's wasting their time. Is to discourage that.
Understood.
Because the staff, our motion would be easy, but the staff is going to meanwhile have to do a whole report. We'll work on,
Yeah.
we'll take the feedback.
Then I think council moving forward to item number 16.
Or what about 15, there were
Is there any
changes?
questions on 15?
They were grammatical changes.
Okay. 16?
So I'll just say that this goes back to that same idea that the mayor speaks for the city, and it's a state of the city address, and we should really focus on the accomplishments of the city as a whole. And obviously, we didn't want to tie anybody's hands completely. I mean, the theme of it should be the city, but we did make sure to add in there, the mayor is free to advocate for his or her vision of the future. We just wanted to make sure that it's the state of the city and not an individual accomplishment award ceremony.
Start down here?
Yeah, it's funny, when I read this, I really like this because, when you look at the state of the city, it's a great evening. It's high-spirited. We know there's refreshments after it's light. And a lot of people come to want to hear the vision for the future. It's important. Where is leadership taking us? Not just retroactively, but going forward. So I applaud your committee in doing this. This is really good.
David?
I understood the way it reads. I understood the way it's said. I My initial comment on reading this is why micromanage the state of the city when we've never done it before? I mean, I would hate to have had this type of policy in place when Dennis had his bales of hay when he did the state of the city way back in the old city hall. I thought it brought some character. It was his choice, I presume. I don't know, maybe it was staff's. So while, again, I have not seen a situation that I recall where the city isn't the highlight, should always be the highlight, accomplishments and the staff and our community. Michael and his group do a great job in putting forward slides or graphs or whatever it might be to make sure the city is highlighted. So again, I get that it's a nice paragraph. I get the concept. I don't know why there is a need to micromanage the state of the city. That's my initial reaction. I'll listen some more.
And I was just going to ask if we could add the word may. The mayor may present the state of the city. So if the mayor wanted to do not a formal state of the city, give the address from council, or just have like a community conversation. And then also if it could be, if they wanted to do it before, anytime like before December, or no, I don't know, like it's very set. I just thought if we could add the word may, because I think it should be up to the mayor if they actually want to do the state of the city in this way.
What's the
So
reason?
where would you put the
Oh, I'm
may?
sorry.
The mayor may present the state of the city? Yeah, or, I don't,
Well,
that's the intention.
don't
that-
we have a state, I mean, if the mayor doesn't want to do the state of the city, there'd be no state of the city?
Yeah. But there could be something else, like just not like the formal stand at the podium, talk to everyone, just a way, could be still getting the information across. It's not codified anywhere that we have to do a state of the city, so invite everyone, communicate, but, I mean, we could call it state.
Well, I think the state of the city is an opportunity for the mayor to showcase the year, but it really is like a city event.
Right, and I would, like, if we're talking, since I'm the next person that has to do it, I would rather actually make it more of a city event and less about the mayor talking. So I don't know, like, it could be a state of the city. I'm just saying, I would like some, like, flexibility, so it's not the same program every single year.
So, and I gotta say, this doesn't really restrict the program every year. The first part of this sentence was actually more to lock in the dates.
And-
And,
Sorry, and that was the thing, like, it changes when there's an election. So I just think, like, what if someone wants to do it in June or May? Because at the end, like, I think there should just be flexibility.
No, it wouldn't, where do you see it would change with the election?
No, or like, if you want to do a town hall, like, would you guys consider that a state of the city?
If you're telling me you're not going to do the state of the city, then it would be, yes.
Right, I'm just saying, I want to make sure that there's flexibility, like, the mayor presents an annual, like, I just want to make sure that somebody's not locked in to standing at a podium delivering a speech.
okay, and none of this says that you gotta stand at a podium and deliver a speech or anything like that. Again, the key points that were put in here and the reasoning behind them was the state of the city has moved many times. And if you want to go back to the Acorn, you'll find a nice ugly article about the state of the city moving and one council member or two objecting to the fact that the other council member might have been trying to move it to a certain date so that it helped his or her election in a certain way. There was a lot of accusations thrown, and we just don't want to be there. We want to go with our heads high and say, let's create a policy that makes sure that the state of the city doesn't get weaponized. And originally, I was suggesting that March would be a good day for the state of the city. March, April, May, get it way ahead of the election. That way, every other year, we don't have to worry about it conflicting. James, on the other hand, was pointing out that the mayor would like to be able to highlight the accomplishments of the year that they were mayor. So towards the end of the year makes more sense. November, December was chosen because unless you're in the first 3 days of November, you're after the election, and so we don't have a conflict there.
But why doesn't it be up to the mayor?
Well, and I'm getting to that. And the reason why would be if one mayor does it in March and the next one doesn't do it till November, then we've got 18 18 months going by before the city's getting their update. You know, with anything else like the State of the Union, it's 100 days after office, right? It's always the same time every year. So we'd like to have that same sort of consistency. November, December, I think that's up for grabs, but we
That's-
wanted to avoid the August to October, timeframe, because every other year it's going to conflict with our elections.
I just want to add one thing. I thought it was a lot this year, that you had the state of the city, then the swearing in. It's a lot on staff, it's a lot on the council, and it's a lot on the public. I know people like coming to things, but all of that in such a condensed time. So I think there should just be some flexibility for staff, the mayor, council, figuring it out. There was so much in such a short time.
Instead of flexibility, and I'm totally okay with moving whatever dates, and I'd like to take your lead on that. If you'd like to see it in the springtime or in the summertime, but setting it consistent so that staff is only doing it once every 12 months, not having to do it 5 months apart, setting it consistently so that the community can count on when it's going to happen. It just makes sense. I'm not committed to the dates, we're just looking for that.
I think we should then come back to that one, and like staff should, what communications is working on, what Ani's working on. I just think there's a lot of things, looking at the broader city calendar.
I think also we had run into problems, and Matt, I don't know if you were the city attorney at the time here, but you're aware of these problems, where we had fighting over how, could it be rebroadcast? Because it was
Yeah.
like a commercial during the election. Could we publicize it? And I think at one point we were told, you can't publicize it, it's gonna be there, you can't rebroadcast until after the election. There were a number of rules that were put in place that were, I don't know if they were followed or not, because a couple mayors wound up retiring over the years. But the point was that this avoids all those legal questions. How do other cities avoid that kind of issue?
That varies. A certain portion of cities don't do a State of the City address. It's not within their culture. Obviously, I'm not suggesting we change the culture. Other cities intentionally schedule it not to be during the election to solve the problem entirely. As I recall, with the issue with CTV in the broadcasting is that it was not rebroadcast, although I think that was more of a best practices than a straight legally required, in that CTV can report on a public event, and the State of the City is a public event. It's newsworthy in that regard, but then it became a matter of this concern about one person on the ballot getting what felt like preferential treatment against others. That is solved if it's not set during the election period.
Well, I would rather have it the same time every year, whatever the council decides. The reason why I thought November, December would be good is it solves that election issue, but it also allows the mayor to do the full year of his or her mayorship. I mean, otherwise, let's say in a month you would be doing the State of the City. You really wouldn't be talking about your initiatives very much and what you had accomplished. I mean, what was accomplished during your term. You'd be talking about the prior year. And then the prior mayor would have that same problem. They'd be coming into office talking about a previous council's.
I just worry about like November, Thanksgiving. There's just those November and December, especially if you have a city election and then a swearing in. It's just a lot condensed. It's not like such a big deal. The thing I care about more is just saying may present in some form. Like,
Okay.
I'm less concerned about the dates.
Could I suggest then, to solve that, the mayor presents a State of the City or citywide address, depending on what you'd be comfortable with there, and either if an election year, before or after the election, giving the option to the mayor that year who may be on the ballot to do it before the election cycle or
Like-
November, December.
Like, personally, like, I'm envisioning something that, like, all of us are more involved in than just the mayor. So that's kind of where I've been thinking. More, yeah.
Sometimes you hear a word and it resonates with you, and I like the word town hall, or the words. It felt good, and I think it's a good, open event for people to enjoy and listen and ask questions. But I wouldn't want to see it mixed up. I agree with James, and I think all of us may feel the same way, and that's having the State of the City. We're so used to it, It's so ingrained within the city, but it doesn't mean we couldn't have a town hall. But you wouldn't have much to talk about your term so far, so it would have to be a different format, maybe how they can enhance what you want to do. Have to think about it a little bit more.
I'll surprise everyone. We'll keep this, and I'll just,
Is there a month that you're,
I just thought this year, it was like amazing for David, but then it was like so quick to the swearing in, and I just thought it was a lot, honestly, on staff and the public. I think it's nice. I really, this is not a big.
agree with you.
This is like not a big issue to me. I just want the flexibility that there's not this expectation that the mayor's always standing up at a podium talking to people, that I would like there to be flexibility as long as there's an annual event with the public.
100%.
Yeah.
And my suggestion would be, if there's a month that you're thinking of that's not, and I too would like to get it away from November, December.
Yeah.
That was not my first choice. We actually chose November, December here because we thought that's what you wanted. So, I mean, and
I
we're
honestly,
horrible mind
because-
readers, but.
And because if it is an election year, I'm really envisioning something that all 5 of us have just as much like, there's no like elevation between the mayor and the council, but I really am envisioning, the best part I loved about David's was where the department heads had
Yeah.
spoke, and I thought that was a great thing
That was
for the
cool.
community to get to know the department heads, and I really want to like focus on that. People come to us with so many questions, and we direct everything to staff. I want staff to be a part of something. I mean, these are not important details for the protocols. I just want to make sure that it wasn't podium speech. That's why I just wrote May. That's it.
It is important for the protocols in subsequent years, because what I keep hearing from myself, from James, from Ed, is that consistency helps. Having the same, and when I say consistency, I don't mean the same presentation every year. In fact, I love the different presentations, and I'm totally on board with whatever format you want to do it, or even if you want to rename it this year.
Oh, I don't,
But what I'd like to see is a consistent date. So if you want to change November to December to May to June, I'd be glad to follow that in 2025 so that we can be consistent about this. That's what I'm looking for.
I guess I'm not that consistent, but this one's just not such a big issue to me. I just thought, I mean, Kindon, was it a lot on staff to have 2 things?
It does block up at the end of the year for things like that. We had, Veterans Day, State of the City, then reorg. So that does pose a problem. I think the bigger issue that we're looking at is, I think there's 2 issues in this, is making sure it doesn't happen during the campaign period, that August through November, August through October. So whether there's a set month, or, I mean, that's up at the pleasure of the council, but I think the big issue that we heard from the Protocols Committee is making sure that whatever that is doesn't happen during that campaign period, that August through October. And then, if the council wants to do a town hall or a forum or whatever that is, I think that's up to the discretion of the mayor if the council so chooses. But, and the timing could be in preceding or following that election cycle. But if we just keep it consistent, if we know in the sense of it's going to happen in a certain month, then we can start calendaring for that.
So wait, are you saying leave it to the mayor which month, whether it's prior to or after the election?
If the council, I mean, the staff will do it. We've done it in the past. If there's 3 events, we'll get it done and we'll do it well. But if the council wants to do it beforehand, we just need to know in advance of that. I think the big issue is it's just not done during the campaign cycle, is what I heard from the Protocols Committee. Whether there's interest of doing it before or after, or letting the mayor choose, that's up to the pleasure of the council.
Well, I'm okay with letting the mayor choose. Of course, each mayor might choose a different time, so you might go from July of one year to November or December of the next year. Could be an issue or not.
I mean, I'm fine with November, December. I just thought it was a lot on staff. and
But I think
the
you'll
public.
have something to talk about that you're familiar with.
Okay.
Right.
This one's just not such a big, I really just cared about the May part, not any of the other stuff.
Madam Mayor and council members, excuse me, there is a policy already in place regarding the state of the city during the election season, and it's under the CTV policies. and it reads, CTV provides coverage from the annual Mayor's State of the City address. In election years where the incumbent mayor is running for re-election, the Mayor's State of the City address speech must be held prior to the official date that ballots are mailed to the public.
Okay.
The speech will not be televised or replayed live or archived by the city or any media platform, including but unlimited to television, radio, social, networking, micro-blogging, cross-format, messengers, video sharing, or websites until after the election has been held.
So you could have the choice of having it after the election and unfettered.
Or the key component difference between this language, or really the next page, and that language is that blocks it from the period when ballots are out through the election date. The language could be expanded to block it during the nomination period through the election,
Well, but the point,
blocking the entire
look,
campaign period.
I think we're missing the point here. The State of the City address, while it's the mayor's address, is also something for the city. So if it's blocked out because there's an election, that means the city kind of loses out too. So then you'd have to move it to like April or May,
Right.
basically, which I think is just too early.
I don't think it's too early. I mean, our president does it 100 days after election, and he hasn't accomplished much, but he gets to talk about what he has accomplished and what he's planning for the future. So the State of the City can be earlier, and I mean, that was originally my preference. If you're looking for something earlier too, I'm just looking for, it should be fairly consistent. We shouldn't be moving it around every year. It should be a range of dates that we think we can hit on a regular basis. And if that's May to June, or April to May, or November to December, I think we really do need to pick one so that staff can predict it and not have it flip-flopping, and so that the community update occurs on a regular basis, not a sporadic basis.
Well, if you're thinking of not doing the November, December, which I think is a much better time frame for it, then I would ask that you just leave it to the discretion of the mayor.
I'm sorry.
No, go.
I was just going to say, I agree. I actually think November, December is the right time. And if you're talking about what this is intended to say, which is accomplishments of the city, that really isn't going to happen till the end of the year. That really shouldn't happen till the end of the year. Otherwise, you're talking about the mayor and the mayor's wishes. So to me, if your goal is this, if it's a State of the City address, except in election years where maybe the mayor gets a choice, it could be set as November, December. That's all.
It would be nice if moving forward, we kind of missed the boat this year to do January or February. So, I mean, so I guess we're stuck for this year with November or December. It's fine. I don't really have strong feelings about it.
I think the idea that was brought up, if some mayor does it in springtime, and then the next mayor happens in November or December, you are talking about 18 months between events. And then the next mayor may want to do it in May again. So it's going to lose the consistency. I think it's going to lose the charm. I think people kind of have it set in their mind. So if we're going to decide on May or June, let it be that way, or make a decision and do it in November or December at those dates, mayor's discretion. That would have to be at the conclusion of the election. And yeah, we're going to have, we've done it many, many times with reorg here and State of the City, and it does get a little busy. But you know what? I think a lot of residents like that.
Whatever the majority is on this. Do you hear a majority?
I'm not sure. So it sounds like that there's a request to have consistency, but I don't know if that means consistency in November, December. Is that the pleasure of the council?
Well, my first choice is November, December. My second choice would be to not have consistency and let the mayor choose. Because it is going to be, well, I mean, I don't think everyone should be bound by that, moving it.
And my first choice would be May, June, and not give the mayor flexibility to keep moving the dates. So I think I just canceled out James.
And yet, this is your request as protocol committee.
I told you, we didn't agree on everything.
All right,
We
but it-
came to
So-
a recommendation, and we did the best we could.
Kendon, can you look at the city calendar, like talk to the staff who's really involved in the state of the city and planning these events? I would actually really like to hear from them.
We can do that.
I think that's-
Just for my 2 cents, all due respect, I had supported the committee's view of the timing. My issue was the other issues. So November, December made sense to me for the purpose of what is being intended here, is that you're highlighting the accomplishments of the city for the year. So I agree with James as far as November, December.
I'm all in on the end of the year, and/or if the mayor has a decision about another time because of the election.
Just-
Mhm.
yeah. So I guess you have something.
We'll come back to this one.
I think there's
No,
consensus.
you got
on-
3 November, December.
Yeah, 3
I'd
November,
rather just
December.
go with that than bring it back.
Okay.
Although it was slightly different, not to overcomplicate this.
It's just not
But-
a big deal, this one, I don't think. If people want November, December, I just really want to be mindful of, like, honestly, I want to be mindful. I saw what, like, some staff went through with all these events, and it's a lot, so I just would like to be mindful of that.
Yeah. So again, it sounds like there's consensus, at least, and for November, December, and then the wording as is.
Yeah, if I could ask Councilmember Albrecht, you had stated November, December, but with flexibility for the mayor, which is not the same as
November,
Mayor
December.
Pro Tem Kraut.
November or December.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we have 3.5, 4 with the mayor for November, December.
I'm going to surprise everyone with the state of the city. You never know what it'll be this year.
Confirming that we're keeping 16 assistant. Correct.
Thanks.
Moving on to the next section, campaign reform.
Oh,
This
wait,
is a-
sorry, what page?
This is page 7 in the red line version.
Yeah, she's got a different version up there.
Oh, wait,
It's a different page.
no, my next one goes to city council, campaign, sorry. Got it.
So this is a new section, and so again, I'll turn it over to the Protocols Committee to discuss the intent on this one.
So again, this was a number of areas where, council members, the city has had actions during a campaign season that might raise an eyebrow or two, and I want to make sure that we're above reproach. This first one here for the Mayor's Youth Council, there is a voter outreach, and it has been posted and reposted by council members that were up for election, and when it gets reposted, sometimes it appears that it, is a product of that council member because the meme is posted with that council member's name and their social media.
Sorry, what is that one about?
Voter outreach for the new voter registration.
Pre-voter,
What's that?
I don't, pre-voter registration? What voter drive was during an election? I'm just not clear what this is coming from.
It's coming from the Mayor's Youth Council voter registration drive.
Their voter contest,
But it's at the height, it's between the schools, like they do it,
but we advertise it.
but with the mayor's youth council or not. I mean, the schools do it all the time.
Yes, but the schools aren't doing it.
Like the drive to get kids to register to vote?
When the post says Mayor's Youth Council getting out the vote or whatever,
No, it's to sign people up to register. It's not to vote. They're pre-registering at
I-
like 15 years old, 16 years old.
16.
I
16.
understand that. And the FPPC regulation says that when a city spends money on something, which we do, we spend over $1,000 a month on Mayor's Youth Council with the cost allocation plan. When you take the cost allocation plan with our city staff time, we're $17,000 a year on the Mayor's Youth Council.
I've never seen any of this.
I'm not aware of that.
I've never seen those figures.
Okay?
I've never seen anything, so.
They're in your budget, they're in the cost allocation plan.
All right, well, that should be provided if this is part of the discussion. I've never seen that.
Okay. So that's the staff time that's spent on the Mayor's Youth Council. So there is city expenditures there, and the FPPC says that whenever a voter outreach endorses or implies an endorsement of a candidate,
That's what I'm so not clear on. The contest between Viewpoint and Calabasas has nothing to do, there's no moderate. It's a drive at the schools to get people to sign up to pre-register. I don't know what this is.
But sometimes it's advertised in conjunction with a council member. If you want another example of what this might be, is the November 2022, which was held in October, voter information night. I couldn't do that one. And the reason I didn't do it was because I was on the ballot.
and let me give a non-campaign year example. I think Councilman Shapiro, there was a voter registration outreach at La La Land Cafe. Now, that was I'm using that as an example because that was a non-election year that you were posting.
We were promoting an event. Everyone should be promoting events. That was with Assemblymember Irwin, to meet with the youth in our community and to get pre-voter registration. This is all to get kids to register to vote. That's like, everyone should be encouraging young people to register. I'm just not clear on what any of this is.
And just for clarification on that one, that was something I was invited to as mayor, to join Assemblymember Irwin to have a sidewalk coffee.
Oh, okay.
Her and I asked her as a favor to come meet with the Mayor's Youth Council ahead of time, which she graciously did, bought them coffee. I think it was your idea, or maybe it was Maurice, or the students. Mayor's Youth Council said, well, we're gonna be there anyway, why not do voter registration? That was it. And posting on social media is something I guess we're gonna get to, but that had nothing to do with election
Right.
or votes. I was with Assemblymember Irwin answering questions from the community the entire time, other than her meet and greet with the kids.
And I believe Ed came by, like everyone was invited. And the students met with her also and were asking great questions. But
I
it was
think-
not, none of this was,
I think the public perception, the public doesn't draw those distinctions so much. So let me ask Matt, because I never really asked you, Matt, but in 2022, when the voter information night came around, and Mary Sue and I were not going to do it that, because we did it in the spring, we were going to be on the ballot. Then she decided not to run for reelection, and she did it with Alicia, as I recall. So that would not have been proper for me to do that, would it?
but that's not what this is.
No, this is the words here say something different.
That's one thing. What Peter's talking about are totally separate events.
I have to say,
But that's what, it was moderating a,
But that's not the La La Land event, and that's not the contest between Viewpoint and Calabasas High. Of course, no one should be moderating a debate.
I thought we were heavily involved, at least when I was doing the Mayor's Youth Council the year I was mayor, we were heavily involved in the voter outreach. We were guiding them during the city events. They would come to the concerts that we held and have a booth. They would come to the Pumpkin Festival or the, 4th of July or whatever, and it would be kind of under the auspices of the city. In fact, it was a city booth that was set up.
For pre-registration?
For both, it was just registration and pre-registration. It was just a general voter registration booth. I mean, and then so when we say there'll be voter registration at this event, and then it's council members running it, I mean, it just seems like.
I've never run any Mayor's Youth Council voter registration. Like, they do it. They are doing the events.
So they might be doing it, but again, if the city is putting out a voter registration drive, or the city is reposting or advertising a voter registration drive, we cannot, by FPPC regulation, imply an endorsement of a candidate. Okay, so, and so my premise here would be, when we post voter registration drive by the Mayor's Youth Council, we are endorsing the mayor in that drive.
I do not agree with you at all.
And I respectfully disagree with your analysis, but your entitled opinion. And since we're bringing it up, I have to go a step further. This brought up election voter information nights. Well, and the mayor and I are currently the task force or committee or whatever it's going to be called for the Mayor's Youth Council. Well, first notice I got of a voter registration night in an election year, which is this year, is a notice and a flyer from the city with one name on it, not running, but a colleague that violates your own protocol you're providing in an election year.
I don't know what notice you're referring to.
The voter registration, election information that James is running for the Mayor's Youth Council. That is not two people, as you have here.
No,
So-
beginning of the nomination period until Election Day. So not only am I not up this year,
What?
but it's before the nomination period and before the election.
But don't you think it consistently should be two people? I don't mean me, by the way, but Mayor Pro Tem, or actually he's running, I guess, so no.
Yeah, no, it's
No.
not an issue of two people here. We're concerned about an implied endorsement.
But no one's up for election in this. If we're talking about, you're talking about the March primary, March 5th. No one is beginning of the nomination period until Election Day. There is none.
Okay, I guess then that is a side point, which I'll save for later, which I take issue with, so you know. But I don't, again,
It's-
I've
it-
never been to a voter registration where I sat there. It's all done by the students. I've never, in my 5 years since we've had the Mayor's Youth Council, I have never myself gone to an event. I never sat at a table. As I said, I was with Assemblymember Irwin at the event. The kids are running it. I don't look at it as they're endorsing the mayor because this city council approves the Mayor's Youth Council, not the mayor. So that's just a personal opinion,
And it's pre-registration.
but I understand.
It's not, but I agree, no one on a ballot should do any moderating of
We-
any
Of course.
election activities.
Right, and
Of
we did,
course.
in 2022, I took myself out of it without this protocol.
Right, just the right thing
Right,
to
but I
do.
think the wording is implying other things, like a sidewalk conversation with Jackie Irwin. Like,
No. That's,
or like the drive between Viewpoint and Calabasas. Like the people in charge of the Mayor's Youth Council, the council members working with the Mayor's Youth Council have nothing to do with that. Like, nothing. I mean,
Mari
Mari does it, and the kids.
That's
You're
why
not
you
involved
apparently
in
get
it.
paid the big bucks. No, sorry.
You're not involved in it at all. It's like done at the schools. And it's people that can't even vote. They're like 16, 17.
If I may, please, even at all the events, is the Mayor's Youth Council running the table with, they have registration cards, they provide information about Mayor's Youth Council, they do other things, but it's not the two liaisons of the Mayor's Youth Council, the mayor or the council
Okay,
member.
well, let's just take it a step further then. Let's just say any council member, not just the liaisons, goes up to the table, takes a picture, and then that's on social media. Would a challenger candidate have that same opportunity?
Sure, they could come meet them, they can come to us, because they're
Well,
all at public city,
realistically-
but they're all at public city events.
There was a challenger in the last election who did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
James.
Yes.
Let's be honest,
okay, but.
to be accurate.
The image that's coming to mind is we have two council members sitting at a table, voter registration. I'm sorry, I can bring the picture if you'd like.
But what election was this? That's
What
and what table?
location?
And what table?
Please.
Because one thing I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
was that our protocols were not personal.
Yeah.
And these are becoming personal. Like, the goal, it's important that we consider the best interest of the community. If these are about a picture posted on social media by specific council members, that's personal, and that's not what these protocols are supposed to be.
No, and I'm trying to avoid getting too specific because it's not personal. It's about living up to a good standard for campaign protocol.
Right, but the Mayor's Youth Council is doing a competition on pre-registration between Calabasas High School and Viewpoint. Has nothing to do with our elections.
And while you say it's not personal, I find your comments to imply things over the last 3 items that are personal and petty. I'm sorry. They can be accurate, and you're entitled to your opinion, but they seem very personal. And I've said that before. in 3 hours with Kindon going over all these. While there are a lot of great things here, there are some things that are not so great, in my opinion. And I'm entitled, just like you, I'm entitled to my opinion. But
I'm trying to think.
Let me break the crowd here for
Wait,
just for a
sorry,
minute.
real quick, let me just finish. Ed, just, like, there's an event this weekend. There is going to be a voter registration table done by a subcommittee. Will any council members who are there go over to say hello to the students? Absolutely. But it's not an endorsement. I mean, it's just common courtesy that we engage members of the public. Like, they're running this. They're so engaged in trying to increase voter registration, and that's something that we should all be championing. Can't speak, okay.
And is this, last quick question, just clarification, because James said it, this all relates to the time frame in an election period only?
That's what it says.
From August to November, correct?
From the beginning of the nomination
period
Till the
until
voting.
Election day.
So it's gonna be August,
to
right?
November.
Or no,
July.
July,
July.
sorry, July to
Okay.
November.
November
election.
6th.
That is exactly what I wanted to mention. The way it's written here on item number 1, the last sentence, part of that sentence is, election-related activities of the Mayor's Youth Council from the beginning of the nomination period until Election Day. So beyond that, shouldn't be a problem. I mean, the problem to me, the word mayor in the Mayor's Youth Council and by association, that was contaminating as a candidate to other candidates? Or am I off base on that?
I didn't
I
understand.
didn't
the
The
question.
word association of the mayor and Mayor's Youth Council, that association for a potential, for a candidate up for election, is that part of this conversation? Because by association,
That's where we see the conflict, yes.
Well, that's why I couldn't do the voter outreach thing.
even though it's not in the nomination period to the election period.
It was,
So why don't we just say that?
in 2022.
Why don't we just say that everyone agrees? No council member up for reelection should moderate any voter outreach, any debate.
Well, that I think would be an FEPC thing anyway. I think that's the law.
But I don't understand what beyond, like, that seems to be.
So voter outreach or election-related activities is what we were trying to get to there. And my mistake, I mean, I put of the Mayor's Youth Council because all of the I haven't participated in any, but all of the ones that I've seen were of the Mayor's Youth Council. So I might be mistaken there, and if I am, I apologize. But the sentences or the words before that, to moderate any voter outreach or election-related activities. That's what we were getting at.
So eliminate
So
of
to
the
strike
Mayor's
the
Youth
words of the
Council?
Mayor's Youth Council, and I'm okay with that.
If that's struck, then it does have to be made clear that it's city.
Yes.
You can't touch what you do, may do under other hats.
Sure.
So that would read, if the mayor or any council member are up for election, the mayor will appoint 2 council members who are not up for election to moderate any city voter outreach or election-related activities from the beginning of the nomination period until election day.
Like an example would be, let's say we had in the e-news an announcement that they're doing a voter registration drive. I would not expect to see the Mayor's Youth Council or any other group posing with the council for that, right?
During the election period.
During the election period.
They can post that themselves to promote.
They can't, I would say they can as long as it's not a picture that was taken in a restricted area like here where other candidates didn't have the opportunity to do it.
I think there's some,
You're saying 2 different things.
they're trying to get people registered to vote, not to vote for.
I know, but the image of a picture with us, with them
We
is,
don't have to be in the picture, but we shouldn't take away their ability to.
they can do whatever they want.
This doesn't take away their ability to do anything. It's restricting the council members who participate.
But that's the thing, all of us should be participating in the Mayor's Youth Council events.
No, all of us except for those up for election during the election cycle.
All the events that take place in the city, oh, my mic's not on, all the events that take place in the city, all of us are invited to. No one should be taking pictures that are getting posted, but I don't think it should be the mayor's youth council. It should be any,
That's correct. Any
Anything.
city-sponsored
yeah,
event.
anything.
That's fair. That's a fair observation. I didn't think that the mayor's youth council thing would be like a flashpoint of the discussion, but take it out.
Yeah.
So it'd be of the city, activities of the city?
We would change the words, who are not up, council members who are not up for election to moderate any city voter outreach or election-related activities from the beginning of the nomination period until election day, striking out the words of the mayor's youth council.
I think that makes sense. I think most of us have been following that, I hope. Sounds like.
That was the only intent?
I just want to make sure we're not restricting the mayor's youth council on doing their activities for pre-voter registration. That's
Nothing says that there. Nothing at all
Because when
even
you were
implies
talking
that.
about like the Jackie Irwin thing, that's where I got,
Again, I might be mistaken about what it was. I wasn't at the Jackie Irwin thing. I saw a post of the Jackie Irwin thing, the La La Land Cafe, that associated a council member with the mayor's youth council with a voter outreach in the post. Okay? It's just the way that the post came across. I wasn't at the event.
right, but we can't believe everything we see online.
No, but, the rest of the public does believe a lot of what they
No,
see
but I'm
online.
saying-
So we have to be careful
No.
what we post and what we do.
No, but the post of that was just the kids were doing a voter outreach drive, and the council was there just like at the event to support them. And I think it's nice when we go to support people of all ages at different events, so.
And especially when it comes, and we've worked hard on this for the past 6 years, maybe, to increase voter outreach in our city. All of us, not just one of us or two of us, but anywhere we can to get people to register, to sign up to vote, to increase the participation of the public.
And I'm sorry, when I gave that as an example, I specifically said, I'm identifying an event that did not happen in an election year so that we could talk about it in general. Was not meant to be an attack on that event at all.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here, restricting, is only from the beginning of the nomination period until election day. That's all. So if it seemed personal, I apologize.
So just, no one's moderating debates or involved in debates, right?
During that,
Yeah.
no, if
No,
you're
you
not
could
for
appoint-
reelection, you
Right,
can.
right, but I feel like that's.
And if it's not during the nomination period, you can.
Yeah, I feel like everyone follows that anyways.
Well, not, I mean, it's good to have it
Yes,
codified,
yes,
so we
but
don't
like,
fight over
of
it
course.
when it's happening.
Of course.
I took myself voluntarily out of it, but if I hadn't, someone could have challenged it successfully, I would think. I
Not
shouldn't be on there.
necessarily, but
Well, then it should be in
if it's a
here.
voter outreach night, you're not saying vote
It-
for someone.
It's
That's what's illegal with
inappropriate to
city
have
money.
someone up for reelection, especially because we rebroadcast and we archive it. It's in our e-news, it's in the press. It would look totally bad.
Yeah, that will
I
look bad
would-
is different than straight unlawful.
I would object to another council member doing it if I were not the one doing it, so I took myself out of it, which I think should be the rule.
I think everyone agrees with that. Agree? Okay.
So with that, item number 2, again, would the Protocols Committee like to lead into that one?
So I think this just goes along with the section that Mari was reading, the CTV platform. Very similar language, similar circumstance.
And as I understand it, this expands it to include the entirety of the city's social media apparatus.
Yes, but again, the section that Mari read on the CTV policy already included all of that, including blogging, I believe I heard in there.
Correct, except that this one says from the beginning of the nomination period. The other one was before the vote by mail ballots went out.
Oh, gotcha, which they do at the end of the nomination period, okay. All right. But again, we did want to make sure to put in there that this does not prevent the mayor from speaking at another function, such as a festival or ribbon cutting. It just prevents the city from highlighting the mayor's activities during that election period.
It's,
Go ahead.
it's just, all of these are well-intended. I just want to make sure we don't hurt other people in the midst of it. So, I don't know.
Well, you had a good suggestion on the first one about taking out the mayor's youth council and not singling it out.
Right.
So if there's language you want to
No,
change.
I don't know how to put the language in, but if we have a great event and the mayor's in a picture, are you not going to say that that event happened? If there's a ribbon cutting and we want to show support for a business opening and it's all 5 council members, are you not going to put that picture in? Like,
It says that.
No, but then you said you can speak, but then it does, it does, however, prevent the advertising of these functions from using the name or photo
Right.
of the mayor and or other council member. But are you still allowed to say, like, this ribbon cutting took place? We want, like, we're opening a new park, a new restaurant's opening. Are we just gonna go silent for activities that the council's done during the election? That seems ridiculous. You don't have to, like, profile the mayor, but, like, to have a picture of 5 council members opening a park, I mean, or it's gonna be really boring. You're just, no offense to Erica, you're just gonna show, like, park equipment. You wanna show people and things.
Okay.
Not
Can
boring.
you
I'd be very excited to showcase that. Trust me, very
I'm
excited.
amenable to changing some of that because I see what your point is, but suggest something, or you want us to work on it, we can
Let's just-
go back.
Can we,
I got a good suggestion. Just take a look at the word singling out, or singling him or her out. If you eliminate that, because singling out, I can see the problem with that.
Agree.
We're not talking about singling out. We're always in a group photo for the most part. If we're at a ribbon cutting, you're not going to be singled out.
agree.
So by taking that out, it should not be a problem.
Well, and that's what the language says. The announcement that highlights the mayor or another council member who is up for election by singling him out by name or by photo will not be advertised during the nomination period until election day. It's not meant
Yeah.
to handicap us. It's meant to make sure that we're not using city correspondence, city communications as a means for promoting a candidate.
That would vary, I don't think I've ever seen that happen with
I
council
have.
before.
Agree.
All right.
That last
Not
sentence
recently, but
is-
I like it the way it's written.
The last sentence is a little bit at conflict with the first
Right.
part, so it has to be redone anyways. I'm
Yeah.
just noticing that.
And advertised by the city, is that what advertise means?
Yes.
You're not then going on the next step of any social media yet, using the word advertised?
No. Well,
Okay, I mean,
yeah,
that's a fair question.
You can
We're not there
advertise
yet.
on social media.
Okay.
It talks about promoting an event versus promoting the mayor.
And what about photos, that get published in periodicals, magazines, et cetera, Acorn, Enterprise? And does that also mean that the mayor during an election year cannot do the mayor's lunch as the chamber might want in August, let's say?
The city has no control over those entities and can't dictate that policy. This is meant to strictly dictate what the city does with the city funds for city events.
Right, but the city always advertises, or has in the past, the mayor's lunch.
Well, then they're gonna have to
These
do
are
it
council
outside.
protocols, not Chamber of Commerce protocols. So again, we're trying to establish what we believe is our best actions forward here for the 5 council members.
Can you come back with language that just,
Do you mean like it should be saying like when they're a declared candidate
no, I understand.
Yeah.
instead
If
of
you're gonna say
nomination
it.
period?
I just, the way I read this is that, like, there's no picture. If you could just come back. Like, I understand the intention, I just don't think the language.
Well, I see now that reading it that the first and the last parts are not consistent, so
And-
that'll have to be
And this has
clarified.
happened in our past, so you know, I can tell you, not this last time before when I was mayor, I was a ghost when it came to any photos of the senior center events, anything, while everyone else who was allowed to be in was in the photos or whatever newspaper, whatever it might be that so the city was doing that, whether it was a protocol, intentional, being careful because of the election cycle, I can't tell you. I thought it went overboard when the mayor speaks for the city, as we say, is at events, and yet we're gonna ghost the city, ghost the mayor, pardon me.
Yeah, and wasn't intended to ghost the mayor here. Your comment, though, is that you were doing this already, and what we're trying to do is write some protocols so that when Charlie is elected in 2035, he knows what's expected of him.
So-
I wasn't doing it, but who's Charlie? No.
Let's take a break at 9, so let's do one more, or let's finish this one up.
So this number 3, I've been asking a couple of times for our city attorney to help us out with the language here. Matt, no offense, but each time I ask for a concise statement, it's 7 pages.
So I can give you a very simple statement.
Please, yeah.
There are no rules for social media accounts that are not paid. No rules. So if a council member is using a social media account without paying for it, there's no rules.
Without paying for what?
Paying for the account, which means paying for placement, paying for referrals, paying for advertisements, paying for views, paying to move yourself up the algorithm. If it's not paid, there's no rules. If the account is paid, there are rules depending on what pots of money are used to pay for it. If a campaign account is campaign funds, which means FPPC regulated campaign donations are used to pay for it, there are a variety of very specific requirements for how that has to be used. Most of which is summarized are, it must state at the bottom or on every post, on every piece of the puzzle, paid for by FPPC campaign account number. If it's paid with personal funds, not campaign funds, no rules.
What if it's paid for by a third party?
Depends on what it says. If it's a third party that says vote for Charlie, that's third party campaign support. If it's more than $2,000 in a year, then the FPC rules kick in. If it's less than 2,000, no rules. If it's
Well-
paid for by, I'm not done. If it's paid for by a third party, but doesn't say vote for Charlie and simply has a picture of Charlie, no rules. So the line is, does it vote for or not vote for? And is it paid for by campaign money or personal money? For the city's account, the city paid, which means staff, city-run accounts, city-paid staff, anything public money, it cannot say vote for Charlie, but it can feature Charlie, and there's no rules on time. That's the summary.
So it
And
can't,
apologies for not condensing the memo into that.
but it can't, so what I'm hearing then is that you can have a get out the vote. I'll use me as an example, just it didn't happen, but let's say you say, get out the vote in November, and they have a picture of me with a bunch of citizens canvassing.
Perfectly legal, as long as it doesn't say vote for you. Get out the vote is legal. Vote for me is not.
The
with
city could
money.
post that too?
Correct.
Okay.
Getting
well,
out the vote is
I think-
absolutely a legal expenditure of city money. And the way you know this is the city clerk's office and the mayor's youth council and the entire city apparatus can encourage everyone to vote. If the council, if staff can do it, so too can the council.
Can another candidate demand equal time?
No, not on the city's infrastructure, because all we're saying is go vote or go register or go pre-register.
Even though the
That's
implication
perfectly lawful.
is vote
The
for this
implied
candidate.
endorsement isn't unlawful.
Okay, so
The
that's
morality
what,
of it is in question, I'm not answering.
that's what I think some of
That's
this
up
is
to the council.
for. That's what I think these protocols are for. I would think that's an atrocious use of city funds to say, get out the vote, have a picture of me who's up for election in a couple weeks with a bunch of citizens out there. I think that is a terrible thing for an incumbent to do or for a city to promote.
Here, let's,
And that's the question for the council. It's a pure political question. And we look to direction from council on that. I can't answer that for you.
let's take a break since it's 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And I think everyone can use one. And then we'll be back in 10 minutes. Is that good? 10? Okay, we are back, and we are on campaign reform. Let's see, number 2 is going to be redone. I just modify, so everyone agrees on the intention, just to,
As we look at redoing that, one key point, maybe makes sense to exempt a photo of all 5 council members as the committee thinks about rewriting that.
wait, say that again, exempt.
Exempt from this prohibition during the
exempt.
time. In
Oh,
other words, if
yeah.
the photo was all 5
Right,
at
okay,
a park opening or whatever, there's
Right.
equality.
I like that. Okay, now we're on to number 3, the social media. I guess I'll turn to the subcommittee on that one. You had questions for Matt, but we never heard your comments.
So from a comment standpoint, again, thank you. For comments, none of this was meant to be personal, and if it seems or sounds like that, I want to offer my apologies. The intent here was real simple, and I'm setting some standards for myself, and whether we, move forward with these or not. I do believe that as, public officials, as elected officials up here, we have a greater microphone. And all I'm trying to do is ask myself, should I be using that microphone for my campaign? And ethically, my answer is no. And so the attempt here was to share that and to try to figure out how do we define that. I certainly don't want to silence myself. I'm going to have to run a campaign coming up here this year, later this year. I need to be able to reach out to the public. I'm certainly going to let them know that I'm a council member and a mayor pro tem. I'm going to use my picture. I'm going to show my picture at city events. I'm going to show my picture here in front of City Hall. I might even use a photograph of City Hall if I took the picture myself. All of these things are legitimate in the campaign, but what I'm trying to identify as a standard for myself to live up to is that I should not be using my city council member microphone for my campaign. And so the separation of those just makes sense. I know a number of council members like myself have more than one account. I also keep my LinkedIn completely separate from the city. That's my business for my day job, and I try to keep a separation there too. So that was the intent of this, and if it makes sense, great. And if it doesn't, I'd love to hear any suggested changes you might have.
Well, I just want to, normally I would go to you guys first. I just want to comment. We shouldn't be talking about ourselves, but since you did, I'll talk. To me, there's none of the same. I go to the market, people come up to me. Like, your life is also a council member. Last night, soccer game, 2 city issues. Today at the market, another city issue. So I don't post about my family on my social media. I have one account for everything, but I don't post any pictures of my kids because of this day and age, or I rarely do. So I'm not in support of this. To me, like, everything I do is intertwined. I don't have like different accounts. I started with different accounts and everyone would go to one account. Friends, residents, so I don't support this. It's impossible in this day and age with the way social media is.
I was going to say, Matt, aren't there certain rules regarding elected official accounts?
If they're paid by city money, yes. If it's entirely managed with your own time, no city resources, no city money, and no campaign money, no rules.
What if you're required to have a city email address in order to get the account?
Where's that?
If that's the case, then that would be subject, you're using a city email account to run the social media account, then that would, I think, be a public use of resources. Then you have to limit it to not campaigning for yourself.
Okay, so just to be clear, to get a Facebook government official page, you must have a city or government email address for Facebook to give you that page. You can get a political candidate page with a Gmail, and the political candidate page you can pay to promote your advertising.
Right.
That's separate.
That's not
To
true.
get a page where you're listed as a government official on Facebook, the authentication requires you to use a city email address.
But maybe we're talking about different pages, but if you can change your Facebook name all the time, you can change it to whatever you want, just on your page. It's not an official government page, it's just your own personal page with your title.
I don't know the details of how a Facebook page works, but we can look into that. What I understand is that as I understand it, it's going to turn on whether any of the council members or in the future, use their city email account to get the account. I hear you, Mayor Pro Tem, I also hear you, Mayor, and I'm not an expert on how Facebook structures it. I would note enforcement of that's all up to the FPPC.
I've had Facebook since it came out, like 2007. It was under my Earthlink. I don't even have Earthlink anymore. I changed it to my Gmail. I've never used my city email. I set up Facebook in 2007 or whenever it came out. So that was way before. I was ever on the council.
Okay, you probably don't have an official
Yeah.
government page then.
Right.
Okay.
I just, again, these feel personal because I rely heavily on social media to communicate with the public on important issues. I know other council members do. It just feels very personal that some people use social media and others don't. People don't have to follow my page, but I feel I like to give out information. It's not like self-serving. When there's important things going on in the community, that's how I communicate. I don't want my phone, it's easier than your phone blowing up. I mean, I use
Well,
it to communicate.
I think it's important that we get the actual rule. If we're not clear on what the rule is, then how can we do the protocol? So Matt, I mean, I can't direct it myself, but I think we should have concurrence on getting some direction.
I think Matt was clear that there is no specific rule on anything unless it's paid.
Correct.
And so because of that, we probably don't have an FPPC rule here to support this.
Well, what do
The
you
other-
know, Matt? What you said you
So
didn't?
I think the other piece on this, especially on Facebook, there's a distinction between the page that's labeled, Facebook's labels it as government official page versus listing your job as council member and your employer as the city. You can do that all on your own. There's no policing of it. And if you didn't use your city email account to sign up for that account, I don't see how that's unlawful. Morality, I'm leaving aside. So if you've got a situation where a council member has a Facebook page that says council member at city as their job, that's lawful as long
Well,
as
we
they
know
didn't use their
that-
city account to set it up.
But part I'm concerned about is using the city email to get an account that therefore you can do unfettered things with.
Right, if you use the city email account to get or manage the Facebook account, then you'd have to limit it to only council member business, not saying vote for me.
Well, there seems to be a disagreement on whether that's the rule or not, if that's required. Can we find that out?
No, that is the rule. The disagreement is on,
Whether Facebook requires that.
correct.
So
And
can we
also,
find that?
I believe there are situations that are now present where a council member did not use their council email account to manage a Facebook page, but it says their title and their name and their city, yet the council member has told me that they did not use their city email account to get that account. Another council member doesn't believe that, and I can't resolve that dispute.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Look, it seems like there's a rule out there that Facebook has or doesn't have. I don't know what the rule is because I don't really do much with Facebook. So can we find out what that rule is?
We can ask Facebook, but it won't answer the question you're trying to solve. The question you're trying to solve is, in the end, does a council member by law have to have a different social media account for their personal presence, their business, and their campaign? And the answer is no. That's my best advice to you is no. That is not required by law. You can require it in the protocols. You can't enforce it, to be honest.
But you can, if there is a rule, and again, I don't know, I'm hearing two different things. If there is a rule that you have a council email, city account to get that page in the first place, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, how do you find these things out?
So I suspect that if if the mayor had her account as far back as 2007, you said?
I'm pretty sure.
It was before all of the
Oh, that would be
political
true, too.
regulation happened in social media.
That's also true.
And so
No, but
obviously.
I change my account all the time, my page. I
Sure.
update it all the time.
And I'm trying not to use examples on the dais.
Right, and it is.
Okay.
It's completely talking about, this is why I honestly think we should have had a third-party consultant who doesn't know any of our social media habits, who doesn't know us personally, do these protocols, because this isn't fair. This is completely personal. I use social media. I'm the mayor. Like, how could it be I'm going to be up for reelection. How is this not personal? I know you're not intending it to be. But I communicate to the public. Like, people message me 24/7, literally. You can look in my messenger. I'm trying to get in touch. Can you give me the answer? Can you help me? It's all for good purposes to help our community. There's nothing malicious about having a social media account. It's a way to communicate. It's 2024. It's the way people communicate. Every time people message me, I say, can you please send me an email? And then I send it to staff. That is always my response. I can't respond, but that's how people think they can communicate, through DMs or messengers. And I always say, please send me an email, so it's a formal thing. Always.
Perhaps, Matt, you can go back and
Yeah.
resuscitate there was a memo from your law firm about social media accounts a long time ago.
David?
I reviewed the memo and happy to resend it to everybody, but I'm not sure it's answering the question that we're posing, which is, again, if a council member lists their job as council member and their employer is city, which is also technically true, you're all W-2 employees with those titles, and didn't use a city email account to set up that page, that's not unlawful, and that is my advice. Whether Facebook requires a .gov account or .e or .org account to set up a separate government official page, I think is true now. I'm not sure what was true in '07. That's certainly the case. And I think there may be a difference of fact regarding how existing pages were set up, and I'm not in a position to be able to investigate that. Only the FPPC can, and I'm happy to refer anybody who wants to how to do that process.
So then it's really becoming personal.
No, and I'm not suggesting at all that we investigate this. And you have to understand, this was written 3 years ago. We were asked in 2020, each of us, except for Ed, who was not on council at the time, to send in our suggested edits for protocols. And I wasn't on the protocol committee at the time. And I sent them in as requested for 2 other council members to look at and evaluate. And we're 3 years later looking at them. This is not a personal attack at all. I was asked for my input 3 years ago, and I gave it. And after the protocols committee didn't do anything for a year or longer, I was asked by another council member to please join this committee and get it done. And I did. And so if anybody is offended, I'm sorry, but I'm only doing exactly what I was asked to do.
I know David wanted to comment.
And I appreciate that, and appreciate yours and James's work. I'll follow up with a question. These new campaign reform 3, are those done 3 years ago, or are they done in the last year? All 3?
All 3 were written 3 years ago.
They were, as is, okay. Even though the Mayor's Youth Council, it didn't sound like was an issue 3 years ago?
3 years ago, all 3 of these were written 3 years ago.
Okay.
All of my edits were written 3 years ago and sent to Matt when 2 other council members were on this protocol committee.
Right, I'm aware of that, and that's why I know how much work you put in. I read the item number 3 originally, and I obviously didn't read it as fully as I should have, but as the issue of the get out the vote, and we already discussed that as I heard, and Matt had opined and weighed in on that as well. I use social media. I'm somewhat computer illiterate, so I don't use it as well as others. Alicia, you do a great job. I use it for the same purpose, generally a happy purpose, a positive purpose, and I never paid for an account, never. I had Facebook way back to, was it 2 or 3 elections? 3 elections ago, whatever it was, and just changed the date on it, and I don't even look at it until probably 6 months, 7 months before I would run. So I don't look at it, but it does have some automatic something that I can't figure out how to even stop it from sharing. Frankly, the only thing I put on one of my social media since October 7th, especially with all the hate that I get and personal hate mail and other things, is I've been posting a lot about Israel. So that's on there every day. You'll see it if you want to look at my account. And the more I get, the more I'm going to post on it, frankly. But again, this is one of those things. I'm not getting to the personal discussion now, but where I just don't feel it's necessary. I don't feel it's really something that's been abused. I don't think it's something, our community knows who we all are. Our community sees us wherever we are. They know who we are for whatever different groups we have or support. I guarantee they know a lot more about us than we know about them sometimes. So I don't see this as being a big issue, because I read it as get out the vote as the main issue here. And I am supportive of everybody in the city voting registering and voting. And I'm also supportive of those using their social media as they wish. The only ones professionally I've seen, and I may be reading it wrong, where it says to like a professional, in my view, candidate, were 3 other colleagues or 2 other colleagues in the last election cycle or time before. And that to me seemed a lot, mine's just a personal page. It's a Facebook page that I have. And I'm not opposed to anyone posting or supporting things. I understand the concept and what you're saying, though.
Well, I wish I knew more about Facebook, but I think having more grandchildren, I'm going to very, very soon. So I'll put a help wanted ad out for some support.
No, they are on TikTok. Sorry.
You know what?
Snapchat.
When I read this, there are a lot of things, and I really appreciate, I've said it more than once tonight, what your committee has done, task force, to prepare for this. It's complicated, it's sensitive, but on this particular one, when I read it, being licensed for securities, I have my broker-dealer's, my securities email, and for all the years I've been doing this, I'll never commingle. It's a life that I'm very, very familiar with. Not commingling, personal with business. I'm guided by the SEC. So here we're guided by the FPPC. And it just doesn't make any sense for a professional. We all know better, whether you're licensed or not, to separate your accounts. And if I have a city email for the first time, and I know better than to use that in a way where that's being paid for to promote anything, and I won't. I admire what Alicia does. I see it all the time. I think it's very clever and very spontaneous, so spontaneous that it's newsworthy. It's headline news, and everybody appreciates it. And I wouldn't want to see it encumbered. I wouldn't expect you to be using anything from the city. So I'm not exactly sure where the problem is here. If you use your own personal social media account, which I'm probably going to wind up having to do very soon on Facebook, so I'll report back. But I happen to have a Facebook account, but I just haven't used it for the purposes of social media. I haven't really used it except to watch and spy on other people. So, Matt, maybe you can explain to me, I'm not, or maybe Peter, you can explain to me why this would be so, have to make this obvious that we shouldn't be using
I
a
think-
city account and a personal account.
As I'm listening to you, I think the intent here, as Peter and I were discussing it in the subcommittee, is to make sure that there's no conveyance to the general public of a convergence of our duties as council members and campaigning and electioneering. That's really the intent. Because whereas we may see some technical differences, I don't think the public sees that. I think they get out the vote table and the council members gather around, and I think the appearance is that the city's promoting certain council members, whoever's in the picture. Okay, that's what I think the intent here is. However, my request to this council is this. If there's 3 people who don't like these reforms, don't send us back to redo them if you're not gonna support any version of them.
Thank you. I want to be clear because the mayor brought up a great point, which is that, first of all, you are an excellent presence in social media. You represent our city well. Like Ed said, all of your material is timely and spontaneous, and I think the public really appreciates that. And in no way do we want to infringe on that. And the fact that it is your personal account and your city account, that's not the issue here. I think James said it best, was the only thing we were hoping to do is to make sure that we're not commingling our candidate campaign activities with our city activities. That's where we're trying to draw that separation.
Can I say something, just because when you run this time, it'll be, you're running as a council member or mayor pro tem. you're gonna be at city events. You're gonna post those pictures. Like, it's hard to separate things, because you're not gonna go silent on your duties as a mayor pro tem from July to November. So, you'll see. It's like, it's one of the same. You'll see, it's not,
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to be difficult, and I might even make a misstep here or there. But I was really impressed when I got an email from Congressman Brownlee's office. And it said basically that the federal laws, and they don't apply to us, by the way, but the federal laws prevent her from communicating through her office channels during the campaign period. And she just wanted to assure the public that she's still there, she's still working, she's still reachable, but she won't be doing that outreach during the campaign period to follow federal regulations. And when I got that email from her, that's what prompted me to think, well, what are our restrictions? And that's really, one of the things that made this come to mind.
I wish we got paid like Congress. I mean, there's a lot of things that, like, if we're following Congress, a lot of things would change.
Question, is she in the election cycle now?
Yes.
Okay, so the posts that went out for the Count the Homeless event with Unhoused Count event, where she was prominent in the pictures, is exactly what you're talking about, but our city did it, and she was in
did
it.
it too, but she
And
posted
she
on her
posted
social media.
also.
And she can post on personal social
No, it was
media.
on her work, I don't follow her personally, I follow her
And-
her congresswoman page, and that was posted.
And she can post during an election period. She's prohibited from posting anything that implies an endorsement.
But that's an official federal social media page. Mine's not of any official Calabasas page, so I'm good with number 1 and 2. I'm not good with number 3. As James said, don't tell you guys to work on something.
Okay, so number 1, there was a revision that you wanted on 1,
I think
taking out the mayor's youth council.
Everyone did,
And then on number 2, the first and last parts need some consistency work.
right.
And then you guys presumably would be okay with those if they're changed properly. Number 3, don't bother with?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't want to waste time.
Right, but I got a quick question, just concerning it, now that we're not gonna go forward with it, but how do you distinguish, if I'm looking on my phone and I'm looking at a post, that one comes from the city, and, well, I know that's not a formal city, it would come from a council person, post, versus a private Facebook page?
In the magic of social media, you just
How is-
figure it out.
How's a citizen gonna be able to determine the difference?
They can't, but I can show you the difference later.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not, I'm sure it does, or we wouldn't bring it up. But the public won't be able to distinguish it, the general public. Okay.
An hour per page.
Yeah, we may or may not finish.
Can I choose between those two?
Yeah.
One more comment, real quick, on number 1, just so I know you restated it, but on the second sentence, it was going to be not up for election to moderate any city voter outreach. We wanted to include that also.
Correct.
Yes, that's a good point, yes.
So council members, I do not have this in the slides, but page number 8, city council preparation. Item number 2 has been, it really was a change to move number 1 to number 2. I'm looking to see if there wasn't any change in wording there. So it was just moving, item number 1 is now to number 2, and that's why it shows up in red. This is on page 8.
The heading is city council preparation.
Any questions on that page? Any concerns? Then going to page 9. Under public meetings, these are broken down. There's several under item number 1. The first one being item 1E. The sentence added here is that the mayor does not interject in between council members.
I totally did that tonight.
Is
the committee going to speak, or can I just make a quick comment?
for it, yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to hear. I was going to ask the purpose because the mayor also needs to run the meeting, if the meeting ever, future council, when
Charlie.
Jimmy, I'm giving a new name,
Charlie.
give Susie, is on council in 2035. And there is a not functional council. I think at that point, the mayor needs to step in to control and run a meeting. And the other item on that, I don't know how we put it in, or you, if you want to, is the fact sometimes the mayor on a certain issue may wish to speak first, which rarely happens, at least that I'm aware of. I know I did it, I think once last year, and there was a point, I don't recall what it was, and I know others have maybe done it a lot more, not on this council. But otherwise, I'm fine with that, if you want to allow the leeway to a mayor to
then
go
put-
first.
The word generally after mayor.
Perfect.
And just to be clear, this was, the issue of Charlie would have council member one speak, and then Charlie would rebut it, and then have council member two speak, and then Charlie would rebut it, and council member three speak, and Charlie would rebut it, and we were just getting tired of Charlie.
I understood, then you shouldn't elect Charlie in 2035. Okay.
And then switching pages to page 10. Item number 6. And a sentence added to item number 6 to the last part of that paragraph. Item shall not return to the city council unless there has been substantial change and it is requested by a member of the original majority vote.
Only question, didn't we cover that with a
Yeah.
different word previously? Shouldn't it be consistent, whatever the word choice
Agree.
is?
We're changing that other word, though.
So can we
Right.
align these?
Yeah, the intent's the same, but the wording should, whatever the word is, if it's substantial, whatever that magic word is, should be the same.
And I'm not clear on the requested by a member of the original majority vote.
That's because you don't want someone who is in the minority to keep bringing it back.
But what if,
And that's pulled out of Robert's rules, the standard reconsideration rule. There are ways around it, but that's the standard rule.
okay, but if we go back to what the word we're trying to find, if we put that in, wouldn't that supersede this?
Well, we'll work on whatever that word is, and we'll put it in the same word in
Okay.
each one.
Yeah. And what if the council designation changes?
Right.
So there's only, on council left the 2 minority members and 3 new members. That should be considered there somewhere, somehow.
Well, then maybe you put, and it's not requested by a member of the minority. You could reverse it, and that way you avoid that problem.
I think that makes sense.
That would work. The other thing I'll note is that if there was a change in the membership of the council, this is all adopted by majority vote, so the new majority could amend this at will.
Okay.
Yes, but considering how long this takes, I'm sure they won't change it ever again.
That's a fair point.
We could just reverse
Yeah.
the
You
presumption.
gotta put a beware at the bottom.
So in that direction is just to reverse the order of in the wording there, but also then be consistent with the previous, okay.
Right, and here it says the original majority vote, so it would be a member of a non-minority member, as would be, of the
No,
original vote. Right?
No member of the minority should be allowed to do it. We'll phrase it so
Okay.
that it's
Yeah.
clear.
Okay.
Then number 7 is on announcements. Yes.
Oh, I don't think so.
The idea was, I'm very careful when it comes to the sports sport at Calabasas. Oh, these mics, I can't get used to this button. When it comes to the sports court at Calabasas High School, I know that Councilmember Shapiro is there and covering these things. And, he's taken the lead on that, and I don't want to step on his toes. But at the same time, I want to make sure that the announcement gets made. So a little communication ahead of time on these things helps. And on a similar note, you know, there's times that, you know, committees are working on something, or somebody's the designated council member for an organization, and that organization's having an event. I think that council member should be making the meeting, but making the announcement. But sometimes as I sit back to be courteous and let that council member make that announcement, it goes unannounced. So I'm just trying to promote communication beforehand so that we make sure everything gets covered and that nobody's feelings get hurt. That was the only intention here.
To follow that up, that happened tonight. I have a couple items that I think I came up early in the announcement list, and I'll have a reservoir of things to talk about. And some were already mentioned, and the big ones I wanted to leave. I was going to leave that for you. I can go back and tell you what it was, you know, concerning, well, I don't want to bring it up. It hasn't been brought up. But so my note next to this is not practical. So we're going to have to, it's a smart move, but we're going to have to make the time before we, maybe with the city manager or with city attorney, so with the Brown Act, we can commingle a little bit, just have to make the time to do that. It makes good sense if everybody wants. It's harmless. But then it's fun also putting the list down to see who's going to get it. But I agree very much with someone who's associated with a certain event, whether it's the school district or Mayor's Youth Council, whoever's involved, things of that nature.
David?
Okay, I was going to say I don't know if, I didn't have the right word practical in there, but the concept I agree with. I think it's something just, without having something in writing, we could naturally do. I did not give the announcements tonight because I thought it was more important we got to this, as I knew how long it was going to go. I had a lot of announcements and I cut them way down, as did everyone, I think. So we did that a couple meetings, I remember, where people were passing flyers back and forth, and it works to an extent. And then, let's say you're the representative for the Mountain Restoration Trust or Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, somebody else gives it. Or I know, I should know by now what everybody has a strong interest in or involvement in, and that's it. As mayor, it's easier because you go last and you just cross off what everybody else has announced. But I don't think this is necessarily necessary. I guess that's the word. So that's a comment.
And I'll just add, I think this is an impossible task, and I love the authenticity when we give our announcements. I don't think anyone should have ownership over anything. You know, if you happen to have been at the basketball game and you're first, I think David would be so happy that you announced that the Coyotes won. Yeah. And I think if someone realizes one of their main announcements wasn't given, just say, let me go. And I think we should just all be courteous to make sure what we want gets communicated to the public. I just don't think it's necessary. I just, like Ed, if at the end, just be like, oh, I have another one. And
Okay, well,
we'll go.
if 3 people don't want to do this, again, I don't want to waste time and we can nix it. I don't want to go back, I don't want to work on it. I'm just saying. Next one I'll take. Peter and I went back and forth. We originally had a little bit of a different viewpoint, so we compromised by putting this, which I think is very reasonable. In the past, we have not allowed people to see their time. Years ago, we did, and some people would come with their families and little kids, once a baby, and they would say, well, I'm taking that time and whatever. So if someone would speak for 20 minutes, now you can go back and see that, actually. So our rule is this now, if it's okay with the council. You can cede, one person can cede to one other person, meaning no one speaks for more than 6 minutes, but that person has to be here.
Peter, do you have a comment?
No, that covers it.
We going by the alphabet? A first?
Sure.
Okay. So I agree with that. I think 6 minutes would be max on that for sure. But I want to step back just for 1 second. Are we eliminating 7?
Yes.
Because we walked over it, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as that's concerned, yeah, I like that whole idea of 6 minutes. It's crazy. I can't imagine what happened with that.
Person had 20
It was
minutes.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But having the person here is very important, and we recently experienced that here when we had a situation where there were a lot of letters being read for people. It went on for quite a while. I know they were sincere and meaningful and all of that, but nonetheless, they should be here to do that. Otherwise, it doesn't show a true interest just to happen to have it that way. If you really sincerely want your comments to be made, you should be here. Someone else can do it for you. If you're worried about public speaking and you're not good at it.
I think there's two different things.
Yeah, council,
there's
council
two
member, if I
different-
can be clear
two-
on that, with the example that you just gave, people were still using the allocated 3 minutes, but they were using time for their own words and then time to read a message from somebody else. That still fit within that 3 minute. In this case, it would be somebody else in the room ceding their time to another person to allow up to 6 minutes.
So, Ed, what happened at the last meeting would still be permitted. It would just be if someone didn't want to read and you wanted to have somebody read for an additional 3 minutes, that person had to be in the chambers.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
that. Yeah, because those minutes, and in fact, I was watching it on my watch, the timing of it,
3
and it was almost timed out at a minute and a half each. The
Right.
letter and then the person, so. I'm good.
This is good. A question, did you discuss the possibility of making this only for large projects, special events, rather than having people come in and whatever it is they might be doing, promoting their business or events at 6 minutes at a time? Because I understand, we've had packed houses and we may again on items upcoming. So was that even a consideration or not on this one?
I don't think we went that far. I mean, I think if we find that there's abuse of it, or if it's taking, like, if public comment, if people come, like, during the political season to make campaign commercials, which we can't regulate, if it becomes abusive where a candidate gets up there and brings someone and then the supporter brings someone, I think we could regulate it at that point. We could change it. But this is just an experiment. Let's see what happens.
And one caution, we have to be a little bit careful if we're regulating different amounts of time to speak based on
Yeah, I was gonna say.
subject. That
Right.
starts to sound like content-based discrimination, which is dangerous.
Let's
Well,
just keep it how you had it.
I could make a real quick suggestion that would solve both, which is that we change the wording to say, the mayor may allow one member of the public who is present in council chambers to cede their time to another speaker.
Well, I
This
wouldn't do
gives it to
that
the
because
discretion of
then
the
we
mayor.
run into
Yeah.
the
Okay.
issue of content.
Yeah, yeah, I think that'd be hard. I like, you guys, I like how you had it.
All right, great. Good.
I support it.
So in my presentation, I'm sorry, in the presentation, I don't have any others on that page.
Oh, wait,
but-
we added 11.
At 11 was added, that's when, I was just getting that, Councilman, I don't have it on my slides.
We've
but,
been following 11 anyways.
Yeah,
We're okay with that?
yeah.
Yes.
We're- I see that, but you're skipping to 22? What happened to these
Want
others?
to move back to
What
11?
about 16?
Want to move back to 11, just for a minute? We ran over this. So
Which one?
11 again. And this is important. So at the mayor's discretion, a council member may be permitted to respond to a personal attack directed at a council member. Would that be from another council member, or would it be from the audience?
The audience.
Or would it be from anybody?
The audience.
I think it should say that. It should say either audience or both.
If the intent is to allow, no matter where the attack originated from, the council member to respond, then the present language matches that goal.
And I think it's in the middle of several items that are all related to public comment, so context matters here.
Okay.
Next item up is page 11. Number 16 is a new item.
Yeah, let me, so again, remember, these were written 3 years ago when I first got on council. And as a member of the audience watching city council for many years, one of the things that was confusing to me was I felt like the public commented, and they made some good points, and they made some crazy points, and they made some not so good points. But then oftentimes the council would then go on and just have a vote. And nobody would even respond to the members of the public and let them know, well, we appreciate your comments on traffic, the EIR report still stands, or something like that. Just assuring the public that they have been heard, especially when they're speaking on an item. So I thought it would be good to include this here, and to make sure as well, when we're doing that interaction with staff and they're giving us more and more information, we really do need to let the public know that I heard this, I heard that, I heard this, and given all of this information, I'm making my decision this way. And years ago, I didn't always hear that, and so I thought that was a good item to add.
David?
Your microphone?
I'm on.
It's on.
I'm on. It's recognizing the audience and respecting what they have to say and the effort that they've put forth on an item that's valuable, and it's valuable enough to the council to bring it to staff's attention and bounce that off. That would be a good idea. They have a lot of good ideas when they come up here. We want to encourage it.
David?
Thanks. One, I guess this would be a question for Matt or Kendon or someone. My understanding is, or James, my understanding is we are not to respond to public comment from the dais. That's one of our rules that we are bound by. And I'll finish first, that's okay. And the other is, to me, it's optional. Questions asked and answered, which you mentioned is all they hear sometimes. Detail's fine, but not always necessary. And to me, it should come from staff, which I would hope on an item might then take the mic and explain what's been done, or sometimes they say, meet me outside, I'll give you my card so we can have further discussion. But my understanding is we can't respond.
So I think we're talking about two different situations.
Yeah.
So for public comment on things not on the agenda, we are not prohibited from responding, period. Council can respond, and the response has to be limited, brief, two or less, comment. It could be referral back to staff or request the manager to go figure it out or analyze it. No action can be taken, but you're not muzzled from never responding. Our culture is not to respond at all, but that's beyond the legal minimum. For an agenda item, of course, public comment can be responded to, and often is. So I understood Mayor Pro Tem Kraut to be speaking to public comments on an agenda item as opposed to not on the agenda item.
Yes, and that's what number 16 was meant to be, and if we need to clarify that language, we should do that. On an agendized item, comma.
Yeah, that clarity would make sense.
I'm laughing, though, about number 18. When we go back to the one where, like, the mayor won't even sign, put their name on things. Okay. Oh, sorry, 16.
So with that wording, so council members provide succinct summaries of previous discussions on agendized items with staff to assure the public that items have been thoroughly reviewed and concerns have been addressed. Does that meet the?
I would put the on agendized items at the beginning of the sentence.
Got it.
And the only thing I might add is council members and or staff, because a lot of the information to respond may be more appropriate from staff. We may have asked questions and met with them for an hour, but rather than us indicating what staff is saying, maybe it's staff who says we met with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and here's the information he asked, here's what we gave. Just a thought.
One, if I could jump in there, having staff respond to every public commenter is not recommended for a whole bunch of reasons. I would suggest instead that if a council member wants to have staff summarize the discussion, the council member can refer, hey, staff, can you explain the thing you told me yesterday? The other thing I would note is that on items that are quasi-judicial or where we have a applicant or a member of the public with a due process right, like a permit applicant, if the council member is making a decision based on information not in the record, state law requires we put that in the record. So that is also part of this too. And that's already required. We don't need to add that to the protocols, but just remember that. If you're making a decision based on something that you know but isn't in the record, you have to disclose that too. And I think our council knows that, and the planning commission is familiar with that one too.
So then just consensus on the one item of moving that to beginning the sentence a little bit differently, but then Councilman Shapiro not including staff on that one, is that?
It doesn't matter. I mean, again, I ask usually for a staff comment, so I can still do that. It's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Thank you.
That's what the committee recommends.
Any other questions on that one? Then moving to page 12.
22 needs a little amending because we changed our
Yeah.
policy, so I would put something along the lines of, to the extent public participation via Zoom or virtually is allowed, comma, something like that.
Right. Because we have no Zoom component, so.
Right now,
I
we have
agree.
no Zoom component, it may come back someday, but,
Yep.
and this can remain in case it does come back, but it should be indicated, this makes it imply like we have it.
Agreed.
It may be wise to make this a number 23, so that Zoom component is separate,
Okay.
if Zoom is resume or whatnot in the future,
Yeah, that's a good idea, 23.
and then renumber.
Just a thought on this. I was reading, got distracted a little bit, but I'd like to have, when a speaker comes up, they are asked their name and where do they live. If they don't want to reply, then they forfeit their speaking opportunity.
No, they can't. you
First
can't do
Amendment
that.
bans that,
No?
straight up. There's an absolute right to be anonymous, or to state only your name, or to state John Smith or John Doe. While understandable, that's been
So
outlawed.
we're obligated to listen to them no matter what?
You're obligated to listen to them. You're not obligated to vote based on what they ask for.
Okay, but what you can say, which I've said as mayor, is that you have every right to do that, but I also have the right to assess your credibility of what you're saying based on your refusal to state your name and your city.
Absolutely. We just have to let them speak for 3 minutes.
You can discount it or lower it in your own mind.
So I want to just assess from council, we still have a lot more and some really substantive issues. How much time?
Well, I would rather not finish it tonight than to rush through it or do it
That's-
when we're irritable.
And
late at night.
I'm feeling that these next items need all of us to be very calm and at an
Okay.
earlier hour. And we've been going at it, for 3 hours, and I think we've made really great progress together. I'm asking if there'd be support to continue it when we're fresh again, to finish the next items. And then maybe then there'll be some revisions to some of them that you guys were wordsmithing.
Well, I was hoping that maybe we'd have the whole thing to
Oh, okay,
redo
fine.
because they
Okay,
interact
that's
many
fine.
of the sections.
But is there any support to, we've been going 3 hours, wait for the next ones? Because I think there's going to be a bunch of comments.
You got
How
support?
soon do we think we can bring it back?
We have some special
Yeah.
meetings set up.
I think we can talk and bring it back as quickly as possible.
We have a fairly light agenda on the 14th, if we even want to bring it back as soon as that. When love is in the air.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of joy in our hearts there.
It's probably very
I think we
appropriate.
purposely kept that night light,
Okay.
but
Let's talk, but I think the goal would be to bring it back as quickly as possible.
isn't there a special meeting coming up in March? Isn't there one in March?
I believe so. Let me,
Yeah, many of those meetings we started to put in place for budget purposes. And so I worry that if we start using those special meetings, I'll talk with staff, but again, the idea was to start having those because we have mid-year budget and then budget preparations and so forth, and it might crowd out some of the other items.
Yeah, I know, we've only got 8 pages as I see it, so maybe it could be the 14th if you want, if everyone wants.
Let's look at the 14th, if we can do it then.
Finish.
James says,
Well, it's gonna be, if it's gonna be a while, what else is on the 14th?
So right now, we've kept it light, and the only, excuse me, only item is the, coming forward is the future agenda item, which is the discussion on gates and the security gates at, and evacuation routes.
It's a good one.
That might be a,
It's a good one.
And at this point, it's really just a presentation on the work that Mike Dyer has
all
done.
right, I'll go with the flow.
And it will be something that is
Stacy's gonna-
continuing, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk, but let's try if we can get it on the 14th to continue the momentum.
And maybe we can even just look at it, it might be just an hour on the 14th or whatever, if we don't finish it all, but it just makes some
Oh,
progress or
That's a
something
good
like that.
idea.
Okay.
We'll put it on the agenda, and then we can
But is
determine how
everyone
long.
good with that? Like, if, like, we're gonna get this done, and we're gonna get it done right, so.
I'm good with it, and I know tonight's been a great discussion, and it's been a long time coming, and we've all been working hard towards this, so I appreciate everybody sticking with us tonight.
Okay, so maybe on the 14th, if we won't, we'll deal with it as it comes. Okay. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, I guess, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so the recommended action, we're gonna continue this item. Do you wanna take a vote to continue it?
No votes needed. Consensus is sufficient.
Okay, consensus?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
We'll move on to task force reports. I'm gonna let Ed go first so he can make sure that he gets all the good announcements on this one.
Oh, boy. Only two of them. Tomorrow, I've got my favorite little committee, my CP Alliance, a little train that could. And we went dark for January, but February, this group is now the largest energy supplier in the country for solar and wind. It's amazing, in the whole country. So they're building successes on 2023 and looking to add additional long-term power contracts. So this is good for our city, you know? It's good and stabilize our power rates. And we've had an Economic Alliance Task Force meeting with Mayor Weintraub and City Manager and our Assistant City Manager sitting over there in the corner, and Michael Klein, who was very, very good, talking about zoning and new restaurants. We got a little sushi restaurant coming in, and a potential rewards program, and a lot more to follow. We really kicked the tires pretty well, so a lot of reports to come up in the future. That's it for me.
Great, thanks, Ed. David?
I've had a couple leadership meetings for SCAG this week and tomorrow morning and afternoon, Regional Council, CHD, and one announcement for SCAG for those council and city manager and probably department heads who wish to attend, certainly for council. It's free, no charge. The convention is set in May 2nd to 3rd in the desert for the General Assembly. And that's all I'm going to talk about. Valley Economic Alliance Board, I attended as well.
Peter?
Sure, the Calabasas Community Center Task Force met to discuss the grand opening celebration that'll be on March 16th for the general public. That was on February 25th. On February 27th, we had our Las Virgenes Creek tour, and Councilmember Albrecht and Bazagian were there. And it was a great event by our public works staff to educate the public and look forward to phase 3 of the creek restoration. That same day, we did have a a celebration of life for John Suara, and I do have to mention, we adjourned in his memory last time, but the family and friends were out in numbers here at Founders Hall celebrating this wonderful member of our community. Attended the Chamber Gala as well, and want to recognize our Council Member David Shapiro for his recipient of the Spirit of Calabasas Award, among many other awards that were given that night. Was excited to be there and celebrate with him. And then this morning I did attend the VICA Office Holders Breakfast, which had several great speakers, including Sheriff Robert Luna and Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. And the thing I'd like to report back from that is the one thing I really hoped would come has really come to fruition, which is they don't always agree, but they communicate. And they're on different pages sometimes, but they keep moving forward. And you could see the collaboration between them up on the stage today, and I was really excited to see that. Thanks.
Thanks. James?
No, thank you. Peter mentioned the one I had potentially, but he did everything very thoroughly.
And I just want to mention that we had a COG meeting, and we're having a new representative. The CHP is now going to be attending the COG meetings, which is a great addition. So they updated us on what's happening on PCH. And the great thing was Captain C2 and the CHP just really talked about the collaboration and supporting each other on like Mulholland Highway, PCH. So I'm really happy that this person's going to be attending monthly.
And you forgot to mention you're the new chair.
All right. Yes.
Also, I'll mention it.
Yes.
Alicia's a new chair.
I'm the new chair, and Penny Sylvester from Agora is the vice chair. So, yeah, all good stuff. Congratulations. Thanks. Okay. Let's see. Does the city manager have anything to report?
Mayor, just one item, just a reminder to the council and to the community that on February 12th is the symposium, the Public Safety Symposium, and staff has been working with our Sheriff's Department and others to present at that, and that's going to be a good event. We're excited to host that.
Are there any requests for future agenda information items?
I am not giving a date or anything, but the only thing I'd request is that we not totally forget about the airplane noise thing. We were supposed to do it in January. I didn't say anything because we were so busy, but just sometime in the near future, please.
Within 90 days, right? I'm just kidding.
As long as it doesn't get buried, I'm not
just
going to be
kidding.
unreasonable.
Okay, with that, the city council will adjourn to a regular meeting scheduled on Wednesday, February 4th, 2020, February 14th, I was announcing, yeah, February 14th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The meeting is adjourned.